Hello, friends. Welcome back to another episode of I'll Call You Right Back podcast with me, your host. My name is Chad Medved. This is my show. Appreciate you being here as usual. Got some business to attend to. Got some very exciting news. I am officially throwing a live podcast event with no other than John Shalkowski from Odd Pittsburgh. You heard it right. A live podcast event, March 31st at Bottle Rocket Social Hall up in Allentown, I guess you would call that. Me and John are going to put on a show called A City of Innovation. And basically what it is you are going to come and you are going to learn about all the amazing things that have been invented in the city of Pittsburgh. Everything from the Big Mac to the Mr. Yuck sticker. Tickets will be $10. Bottle Rocket, 8 p.m. on a Friday night. There's nothing else in the city more important than what you could come to on March 31st with me and John from Odd Pittsburgh. A City of Innovation. It's going to be a hell of a time. And like I said, that'll be at Bottle Rocket. Tickets are on sale as we speak, and they are flying off the shelves. I think the capacity is 140 people. And as of this morning, not even 24 hours after I posted the show, we sold 40-some tickets. So I would imagine that it's going to sell out. If you would like to buy tickets, go to bottlerocketpgh.com under the show tab. You could scroll down to March 31st's date, and you will see the tab for our City of Innovation. You click on that, buy the tickets, only $10 plus a little service fee for Uncle Sam. But other than that, I'm excited about it. Me and John are going to throw a hell of a show. We're trying to sell the bitch out. I hope you come. I hope you come to the show, honestly. If you love the podcast and you want to support what I do, that would be much appreciated. And buy your tickets while you still can, smoke them while you got them. A little bit more business to take care of. As always, you love the show. I know you do if you're listening right now. Please take a second to rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast. There is nothing that you could do that is a bigger help for me than rating and reviewing and subscribing to the podcast, obviously. I guess you could buy tickets to the show on March 31st. That's a good help too. So why don't you do both and show your support? And it's much appreciated in advance. But the reason that everyone is here this week, we have a very special set of guests. And this week I sit down with Ben Butler, who is the owner of Necromancer Brewing over there down there on Babcock Boulevard, and his head brewer, Lauren Hughes. Lauren is, I believe, the second female head brewer in Pittsburgh, and she is also a queer brewer in Pittsburgh. I don't know if she gave me the statistics on if there's any other queer brewers, but as far as female brewers, she is, I believe, the second female head brewer in Pittsburgh, which is pretty big deal. But Necromancer Brewing, they came out, I think I can't remember exactly what month, but during COVID basically, and they just been ripping ever since. Ben is a entrepreneur to say the least. He is, like I said, the owner, the brains behind this whole operation. He put it out in the universe that he needed a head brewer for his new brewery opening in North Hills. And through a slew of connections, Ben and Lauren met. They became good friends, and now they are ripping. Like I said, Necromancer Brewing is in North Hills, and I think Ben said that this is technically the first brewery that is a production brewery in the North Hills. But you guys know me. I'm not a crazy beer head, but I am in touch with what's going on in the city. And if you are in touch with what's going on in the city and you're a beer person, I am positive you've heard about Necromancer Brewing. From their branding to their social media presence, it's pretty great. I caught on to them early. Ben reached out to me and said that he would be interested in coming on the podcast. And, honestly, just by looking at what they've done in the past couple years, I had to have them on and learn about their story. So I guess we'll jump right into it. Without further ado, episode 235 of I'll Call You Right Back podcast with Ben Butler and Lauren Hughes of Necromancer Brewing.
I gotta use the telephone.
Hello?
Telephone.
I'll call you right back. I'll call you right back.
I'll Call You Right Back podcast. That's good. Do you want me to put any of these in the fridge or anything? I mean,
It'll probably stay cold.
Yeah, they'll be all right.
all right, you're
Duration.
good.
Oh, look out.
I only have one set of headphones for you. I usually only interview one person at a time.
Okay.
You can fight about whoever wants to wear them.
I can hear everyone fine.
Well, I'm glad. I'm glad you could hear everyone fine.
Do you want the headphones?
No, you're
Okay,
good.
Are you
can
sure?
do it. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, get in the other.
Okay.
Yeah,
Did you
you'll
get
be
that?
good. Yeah, I got it. Loud and clear.
Oh, wow.
Both loud and clear. Is the volume good on you?
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll have to turn him down.
Me?
I'll control.
Always.
I got it.
Always.
I got it going. I
That's
was
true.
prepared. I was prepared.
He met me before. He
you could
knows.
set the microphones to if a person to the tone of the voice. There's light, medium, and then there's heavy. So I put him down to medium. Everyone else is usually.
Yeah, I'm pretty. Yeah.
I'm also at medium because I talk too loud.
Me too, man.
Talk too loud. I talk over people.
I get real fucking pumped up.
I'm pumped about this every
What do you
time.
wanna start with here?
I want to start with. So I had can of worms yesterday. Now let me see what all you got here. You got dead presidents. Let me turn these. Dead presidents, can of worms, and what's in these ones?
We got a hazy and then
Made
we got
you look.
Bitter as Death in the Gallows, and then we got a Czech dark lager.
What is that made you look?
Yeah.
Surprise me with whatever. Surprise me with whatever.
Okay, let's start hazy since you
Yeah.
specifically mentioned that.
Yeah, that's. I mean, I feel like that's a good initiation, right?
Yeah, I think so. Hopefully, this is actually. I need to make sure it's the right
Might as well
beer.
just crack both of them because you know we're gonna drink.
We're definitely gonna drink them.
Yeah, I mean, into obviously, get crazy.
It's actually the beer.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
Is there a couple mislabeled ones?
Yeah.
When we do, when we have photos and stuff, we.
Yeah, obviously, yeah. You know,
But
you're
this is
just,
a coveted one. It's like one of our favorite.
Oh yeah. Somebody
hazies we
told
put
me.
out.
Somebody told me yesterday, or was it yesterday? Was I there yesterday? What day is today?
yeah.
we
You
were there
were there
yesterday.
yesterday.
Okay, I was there. Yes, that's right. They're like, yeah, when I met the fucking Rise guys, I wish I would have bought it when I could. There you go.
Thank you very much.
And also, that glass, you're gonna keep it. That is our most stolen glass in the brewery.
this.
That little guy right there.
I was going to ask you, that was part of like one of the things I was going to ask is all your merchandise. I saw your coasters that say this coaster was stolen from Necromancer.
Yeah.
I love all that. I love your branding.
Thank
I mean, out of all the beer scene has pretty incredible branding. Everyone does a great job with naming, with all their labeling and can design, and I love it. But I'm a sucker for all the horror theme shit, all the old stuff. I love your colors, and it was definitely something that just stuck out right away. So bravo to that.
Thank you.
Now, cheers to
Cheers.
Ian's
Cheers.
coming on here.
Cheers,
I'm excited
cheers,
about
cheers.
this.
Cheers.
All right.
Got to look you in the eye, right?
Oh, it smells amazing.
Yeah.
This is right up my
Does
alley.
it taste right, Lauren?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
It's right up my alley. As you know, I'm a novice in this whole world.
Yeah.
That's why, as I was explaining to you yesterday, in this world of professionals, I didn't want to just start interviewing people unless I was able to try some beers and kind of understand them, I guess,
Right.
a little bit, and understand what the different ones were. And up until I started interviewing brewers, I probably drank a total of 10 beers in my life.
Oh wow.
In this 4-month period of time, started ripping through everything. So
Yeah.
I'm good. I do like a hazy IPA. Those are usually my favorite. The only beers that I am not a fan of are saisons. I can't. I'm not there yet. I'm not equipped enough for that. And I'm hit or miss with sours.
Yeah.
That's about it, though. I enjoy beer, though.
Yeah. It's a fun thing, and there's so much variety to it. And the thing with people's palates, it's a funny story. I went to Dublin right before the pandemic, and I fucking hated Guinness. I was like, all right, I'm going to go to Dublin. I'm going to drink Guinness from the source. I'm going to like it, right?
Did you like it here?
Nope. Didn't like it there either.
Okay.
So I come back from Dublin, and 6 months later, I'm sitting on the patio, and I'm like, you know what I could really go for? I can't believe I'm about to say this. A fucking Guinness.
Yeah.
It's like the palate sort of changes with your life cycle and where you are. So it's like, I used to hate hazies. Even our first few hazies, I was like, I'm not really into hazies, And
Yeah.
now I'm like, oh, I love hazies. I can't get enough of them. So it's like your palate changes a lot with your life cycle. So hate saisons today, love them tomorrow.
Yeah, maybe in like I hope whenever I'm like an old man with like a pipe, I just am like a saison, just like a that's all I drink. That's what I hope.
The saison sage.
Yeah. Now this is going to be like a delicate dance. I usually interview one person, and I want to be able to get into both of your lives. Now it's it's going to be good. It's going to be good. So Ben, you own Necromancer. Lauren, you're the head brewer there. Yep. Now, okay, how do I want to get into it? Now, are you both from Pittsburgh?
Not originally.
I am. Lauren's not.
You're not originally from Pittsburgh?
No, I've lived here about 8 years.
I'm going to move this up for you.
Yeah.
Now, where are you from originally?
Originally, I was born in Florida.
Okay.
And then I lived in Florida for a long time. And then
What part?
Grew up in Miami, did my undergrad in Tallahassee. Then I moved to Indiana and did my graduate work in Bloomington and worked in Indiana, and then I moved here.
What did you go to school for originally?
Music.
Mm-hmm. It's always it's everyone's story. No one that is doing what they're doing today ever planned on doing what they were doing. I don't know if people grow up and just, from a young age say like, I'm going to brew beer, because, we're not introduced to that really, as little kids. So is there any brewers that really dream of being a brewer their entire life?
I don't think so. I think if anyone tells you that, it's a bunch of bullshit.
Yeah.
Especially when the brewing scene started, it was sort of this like adult hobby in America in the 1970s and early 80s, where like you actually couldn't get homebrew texts in America or any information. I think wasn't it illegal to homebrew in America at that time too?
It depended on what state you were in.
So it was like a really not cool thing. So like some of the OGs went over to England and got English recipes and texts, and that's why if you have like East End's a really good example of it. The Big Hop is very English influenced, in my opinion, because that's from an era that's a little younger or a little older, but at the time it was like right on the cusp of when that industry was super young. So all the OGs went over there, and America is responsible for resurrecting the IPA and the porter and all of these beers, where there was like one person making an English IPA over there because they stopped, and then IPAs exploded and got mutated over here. So the British IPA and the British porter became the American IPA and the American porter, and sort of, treed out from there.
Yeah.
So I don't think anyone really wakes up and says, I'd like to brew beer. You just sort of like, it sneaks up on you, right?
Yeah.
Did it sneak up on you, Lauren?
Yeah, I mean...
Yeah, music. Now talk to me like you're a young person, that was your plan in life?
To be a musician, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was the plan. My parents were very influential in that, just because they wanted me to do it.
Yeah.
My dad was a musician.
What instrument?
French horn.
French horn?
Yeah.
My goodness. It's out of left field. That's cool. That's the one where you put your hand in there, right?
Yeah, you got to put your hand in there.
That's dope. Yeah, I love that.
I love how that's like the thing
put your
with
hand
French
in
horn.
there?
Which one's the one you put your hand in? Nah, that's the one I played.
Well, that one was sick. It's such like a, you see people play a trumpet or a trombone and stuff like that, but a French horn, you don't really hear too many people say a French horn.
Yeah.
That's pretty sick.
It's fun.
Now what kind of music did you play?
It was all classical music.
Okay.
I did a little bit of jazz. I mean, whatever people would pay me to play.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I got 3 degrees in it. I was ready to go. I did performance for the first 2 and pedagogy for the doctorate, so that's like teaching college.
Yeah.
And then I performed here and there, and then I started teaching at IUPUI. It's Indiana University, Purdue University, Indianapolis. It's got a huge name.
Yeah.
I did that for a bit, and I didn't really like it. And then I started doing symphony work, which is what brought me to Pittsburgh. I did some stuff with the Indianapolis Symphony, and then I got hired at Pittsburgh Symphony.
Wow.
Which is what brought me here.
I had no idea about
it's like
any
super
of this.
Condensed, but yeah.
Super condensed, but I mean, super, just didn't expect it. Like, how do you even get into the beer scene?
So my best friend, it's both my best friends from college. One of them got me into craft beer, and after a while of us drinking like every beer we could get our hands on, he was like, you can make this, right? And I was like, how do you make alcohol? I don't know how to do that.
Yeah.
And he's like, you just get a homebrew kit. And we figured it out, and I got a kit and then instantly was hooked. And then my other best friend who moved in with me, he had been a brewer at Bell's, and he was a home brewer, and that like really kicked it off. And we were home brewing all the time, and I was asking him tons of questions. And then when I moved to Indianapolis, I got a job at Sun King Brewery while I was finishing up my coursework, and I fucking loved it.
So it really creeps into your life just like that.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Now, Ben, for you to, kind of get an introduction to beer, you said, I went to Necromancer yesterday, met up with you, got to see a tour of the whole spot. Appreciate that. I love it. Now, for your introduction to drinking, or is it a typical high school type of thing? You guys are drinking like Keystones and shit in the woods.
I wish I was that cool. I'm a late bloomer.
Yeah. You're talking to someone who literally just, I was the stick in the mud.
Yeah.
Out of everyone, I honestly just never drank. I hated throwing up. That was it. I didn't want to be sick. I would see my friends drink, just be sick in the woods, laying in a puddle in the woods. And I'm just like, why are we doing that? Plus I lived further away, so I wanted to be able to drive places. But, usually it's interesting to hear how people like beer. Like, how did you start to like it?
Yeah. So I didn't actually have a beer until I was 21. Like a legit beer. I was a good boy. I'm not a good boy anymore. I'm jaded and very bad now. But, it was just one of those things. I had a friend who was like, hey, he was like one of the first users on Untapped. And he's like, yo, I'm on this app. Like you can log beers and talk about them and rate them and all this stuff. I was like, oh, that's cool. And it became sort of competitive where he was like, he already had like 1,500 check-ins when I started.
When did that app start?
God, I don't know. It's been, I think like a little over 10 years ago.
Yeah. I was going to say like 2010, 2011.
Yeah, it's probably older than we think it is, but when I was 21, that was 10 years ago. So, 10, 11, 12 years ago they came out.
Yeah.
So that really got me into like, oh, I'm going to like seek out stuff so that I can log unique beers and, is this little gamification and being competitive. And then suddenly it's like, whoa, this is cool. There's a lot out there. And there was a specific bar that me and my roommate would go to at the time called the Backdoor Tavern up in Brighton, and didn't know it at the time, but it was like the most legit craft beer bar in the middle of fucking nowhere in Beaver County. And they have over 100 different beers, and they have this thing called the list, which is 88 beers that they want you to strike off and drink that they have on premise. When you do, you get on the wall. And I actually went back there. My roommate, he's now in Nashville, or one of my best friends. He's in Nashville. Came back. We went to the Backdoor Tavern, and I'm looking at this fucking beer list, and I'm like, this is unbelievable.
Yeah.
What they made us do. It was like a crash course in beer. And that bar really set me off. It was like, when people start drinking, they start with things they like, and it's kind of like wine. People who like wine, they start real sweet and they sort of get more sophisticated. So you see people with like a Moscato and all that stuff, and they start, getting a little bit more sophisticated. For newer drinkers, it's usually like, a safe lager, a safe hazy, maybe a stout, and that's pretty much it. This list was like, would you like some Old Leg Humper? Would you like some Speckled Hen? These like British beers, would you like,
like complex stuff?
Very like
this is
robust.
10 years ago, you're saying?
10 years ago.
So my first introduction to even seeing an IPA, not even an IPA, but a craft beer was Buzzy Turek. He runs Epicast. Mm-hmm. We did a podcast way long ago, but he brought in Two Hearted.
Oh,
and, and I didn't drink anyway, but I tried it and I'm like, this tastes like gasoline or something.
Yeah.
But that was like my first initial, exposure to a craft beer rather than just seeing like Bud Heavies or like Bush or, anything like that. So it's interesting to hear that you say that there was like 88 beers 10 years ago, whenever this is happening, because like there obviously wasn't like a scene like there is now, obviously. Right.
Yeah. And I mean, it was like one of the beers was Orval, which is like a really sought after Belgian Trappist beer. And it was, the list is amazing.
So you going through that list is kind of like just, you're earning your stripes, trying all this different stuff.
And the beers that I didn't like now, I revere, or didn't like then, I revere now. So
that's interesting.
When I first had Arrogant Bastard was one of the beers on that list. And it was actually my friend, he was like, hey, if you finish that beer, they only came in 22-ounce bombers back then. They weren't in 16-ounce cans or any other format. He's like, you finish that arrogant bastard, I'll pay for your whole tab.
Wow.
And for me at that point in my life as a new drinker, I was like, oh, this is awful. I hate it.
Yeah.
I love that kind of beer now.
Yeah.
And so that's where I really got my start with beer is, 0 to 60 with, seeking out through Untapped. And then also this little gem, which I don't know any place that rivals it, to be honest. Like it's this little like Cheers like tavern that has low ceilings and really good food and locals. And it's in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
And they have like over 100 beers. Some of them you can't actually find anywhere else in Pittsburgh. They have special contracts with people because they've been doing it.
That's cool.
For so long that they had, I think it was Samuel Smith. They have like 7 or 8 Samuel Smith products, which you've never seen in the area before. And when I was up there, I was like, holy shit, how do you get this? He's like, oh, the owner has a relationship with the importer and we're the only people who get it in Pennsylvania.
Yeah, grandfathered in.
So it was a really good education for me. And then skipping all the way to the professional standpoint, whenever you try to be a beer professional, you need to understand all these style designations and the history and all that stuff. And I already had those hooks. I'm like, oh, I've had this beer before.
Yeah.
I know what an ESB should taste like, or I know what an American Porter should taste like because I've had, 10 of them at the Backdoor Tavern or whatever. So it was a nice, looking back, it was like, this is what a beginner should go through.
Yeah, like you said,
wheels.
a crash course. It sounds like something cool. A bunch of different stuff. You kind of get a wide variety of things now. For format's sake of this podcast, to just be as easy as it could be without being tangential, I'm going to be going back and forth your lives a little bit, if that's
I like
all right.
it.
I want to pry into your lives.
Baton. Here, hand me that switchblade.
I'm very interested. Now I know that you kind of brushed past you being a musician, but it's like your introduction to the beer scene, as far as, you're obviously a brewer now. It's like, what was your first introduction? Were you just like, a bartender at first, or did you just jump right into like home brewing your stuff?
I mean, I wasn't a bartender. We would just get craft beer. I think the first craft beer that I had that wasn't like Milwaukee's Beast was Gumball Head by Three Floyds. It's this hoppy wheat beer, and I remember tasting it and being like, ugh.
You liked it or you didn't?
It wasn't bad. It just wasn't what I was used to. It had so much flavor to it.
Like what kind of stuff were you like used? Like what did you like at first?
Bud Light.
Oh, okay. Bud Light.
Bud Ice, if you could find it and be fancy.
Yeah.
Oh, damn.
Yeah, that was like the beer I drank in college. I drank Killian's Red a lot before it was macro. It was actually its own. It tasted different back then. It wasn't just like a lager with food coloring. And then, he gave me this this beer, and I kept drinking it. And then he was like really into IPAs, and I kept drinking them because I didn't want to like. He was my best friend, and I thought he was really cool, and I didn't want him to like make fun of me. So I just kept like pounding these things. Yeah. And I think after a while, I was like, I fucking love this stuff. But it's like drinking coffee. You're just gonna like pound it until you're like, oh, this actually tastes good. And just ripping through those beers, and then as soon as I learned how to make it, then I was just trying to figure it out.
I mean, like what year was this that were you making beer?
Oh gosh. 2005, 2006.
Okay, so you were doing this before it started to like kind of take off.
Yeah.
Now, where was your, education as far as like how are you learning how to do this? Progress your skills? In
my kitchen.
I get that.
It helped that I had a roommate who had been a brewer before.
Oh, okay, yeah,
and he had been homebrewing for so long and like won competitions. So like talking to him, I was also kind of in the homebrew club. And then just like reading books. They had magazines. They had Brew Your Own magazine back then, and Zimmergy, and just asking everybody. There was like a homebrew shop like a stone throw away from my house, and I would just go chat them up. And then kind of throwing shit at the wall.
Yeah.
And be like, well, what does this do? One time I made an oatmeal stout where I toasted the oats.
Oh, dear.
And in the oven and didn't like let them rest. It was awful.
I was going to say, was it good?
No, it wasn't good. I thought it was going to taste great. It was so acrid because, just stupid stuff like that where you're just throwing
seeing what happens.
And then when I moved to Indianapolis, and they had like a craft brewery, I was like, oh shit, like you can do this for a living? Like you can make like people will pay you to do this?
Yeah, like you didn't have any idea of this was a hobby at one point while you're doing this at your house, right? I'm curious, like what makes you want to, step away from music?
Oh, well that took a long time. I think when I worked at Sun King, I was very happy, and it was something like I wanted to be a brewer then. I was like, this is awesome. I can do this thing that I love to do as a hobby and just do it. And the only reason I quit was because I got a job in my field is when I got my teaching job. And I was like, yeah, I have to quit. I was so bummed out to quit that job. I was like, I don't want to do that, but like it's stable, it pays money. And so I did. And when I was working at the symphony, it was like a lot of work. And my heart wasn't in it. And it was actually my wife was like, you always wanted to be a brewer. Like, why don't you just try that again?
Wow.
Which was like, for us, it was like, I knew what that meant. That meant like quitting everything, quitting a stable job and just kind of like throwing everything away.
Yeah, jumping.
And then financially not having a job.
Yeah.
I did that. And then I started bartending and doing some cellaring around town. I worked at Hop Farm for a bit and Hitchhiker for a bit and bounced around. And then I finally got my first brewing job.
Wow. So. That's crazy. Yeah. Now, whenever you got this first brewing job, where was that at?
Rock Bottom.
So they brew all their beer? Okay. Now, whenever you got your job there, it's like, did you consider yourself well-versed as a brewer? Or were you just like trying to get in from on the ground somewhere and like work your way up?
I think it's like understanding recipes. I knew I had a pretty good, at that point I'd been homebrewing for like 10 years.
Yeah.
So like I understood how stuff worked. The stuff I didn't know is like how much different professional brewing is than home brewing, because it's a lot of pump dynamics and flows and valves, and like the general process is mostly the same, but you're dealing
a lot of bells and whistles.
There's a lot of bells and whistles you got to deal with.
Yeah, I was walking through Necromancer. He was like, this is where we're trying to propagate yeast and do all this wild stuff. And I'm like, Jesus, wild stuff. Yeah. Now, for you, as a brewer working there, how do how does your trajectory go through to where I'm trying to end up at Necromancer now?
Yeah, so I worked at Rock Bottom for a couple years, and then I ended up moving to Penn Brewery, and I brewed there for a bit, and I got promoted to assistant head brewer. And then while I was at Penn, Andrew from Dancing Gnome texted me, and he was like, hey, how's it going? And I was like, good. Because like Andrew and I were buds, but we never like texted each other unless we needed something.
Yeah.
Or we're just saying what's up. And he was like, I have this friend who needs a head brewer, and I thought you'd be a good fit. Are you interested? And I was like, yes. And he was like, cool, I'll put you together. And then he gave me Ben's information, and I shot Ben my stuff.
This was that quick? That was a friend?
Yeah, and I sent Ben my stuff, and then Ben and I had a meeting, and I think we both kind of hit it off.
Wow.
Really quickly,
Now, let me ask you a couple differences as far as like going from Rock Bottom. Whenever you went to Penn Brewery, like what kind of brewery is that?
Penn Brewery is all lagers.
Okay.
So it's all lagers. It's a little bit different, and then we could get really technical. They do decoction mashing there, which is kind of German traditional way of making lagers. It's a much bigger system than Rock Bottom was. Rock Bottom, we had a 12-barrel system, and at Penn it's a 35 hectoliter, so it's like 32 barrels.
Wow.
Yeah, so it was, and it's all in German. Yeah, the system was all in German. And
why wouldn't it be?
Yeah, just make it more hard on ourselves.
Now, Ben, let me ask you. Now, we kind of touched on Lauren's life a little bit. Now, I want to know how your want to open this brewery came to be. I found out yesterday. I don't know if you want to talk about it or not, but you told me you started Top Hat. Mm-hmm. I knew of you from Top Hat. However long ago, that was a long time ago. Design firm. What would you consider? What do you call Top Hat?
Creative and development.
So you did that full time for what? 10 years? You said
8 years.
8 years. Now, at any point in that time of 8 years, did you want to do a brewery?
The entire time.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
This was something in your mind?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, how do you, kind of get to where you were? You know, you're working at Top Hat and then you start this whole brewery. It's interesting because I started to look back at your social media and I saw at first, you know, you guys did a couple collaborations with like Dancing Gnome, with the square dancing, and like, you know, am I correct that you did collaborations before you had like a location? Is that right? Now, what's your mindset as far as like, all right, well, I'm going to just start, you know, being a brewer? Like, you know, how does that even come to be?
Yeah, I don't know. It's, if you talk to people who know me extremely well, they'll just be like, yeah, Ben wants to do something. He just like does it and doesn't really think about consequences or how it's going to happen. It just sort of, you know, hard work and it comes together eventually. So that was starting with Top Hat as the genesis of that. I was in college. I had a director level job at a race complex and ended up, they cleaned house. I was out of this job that was super cool. While I was a college student, really ridiculous scenario. I was like, you know what? I can do this. So started Top Hat, and senior year, skipped all my classes, had an office in Wexford, and started meeting clients who didn't know I was in college. It was really excellent. And so eventually it was just, you know, the whole time I'm doing this, I'm like, it'd be really cool to make beer. It'd be really cool to have a brewery. And that passion of beer just followed the agency, where 4 years in, I hired Aaron, who's now a partner in Top Hat. And 4 years in, he was creative director. We're changing the direction of the firm. We're getting very design heavy. We're building our chops, and we're just sitting around in the office drinking beer. And we're like, you know, it'd be really cool. What if we just like catapulted ourselves into the beer industry? Because we didn't have any beer clients at the time, 4 years in. Like, yeah, what if we worked for beer? We launched this campaign called We'll Work for Beer, where we put out a RFP which is a request for proposal. If you're a brewery, tell us why we should work in exchange for beer, any service that we do. And we ended up with Lord Hobo, which was, at the time, they were the shit. They were fastest growing craft brewery in America and, you know, the new kid on the block. They're since not so glamorous for various reasons. And then we got Iron City, and we rebranded and resurrected Iron City. So the new owner, Cliff Forrest, brought us in. He, you know, entrusted us to breathe life back into those brands. So we redesigned every fabric of Iron City, Icy Light, Mango, Old German, Blockhouse, American, etc. And so as you start going through the industry, you start falling deeper and deeper, sort of like Lauren's story of like, oh, you can make this, and suddenly Lauren is brewing beer and doing it professionally. That was my experience too, where I was like, I always wanted to do this, and then the pandemic happened, and I said, you know what, this would be a really great opportunity to maybe like, you know, everyone's starting to slow down and pause. Boy, was I wrong about that. But, you know, because alcohol consumption went through the roof.
Oh, did it?
Oh, it went way, way up. And
That's
by that
interesting
point,
to hear.
we had been doing beer for a long time. We had, I think by then, Top Hat had designed over 1,000 unique beer labels when the pandemic hit, and we blasted through that ceiling very quickly because everyone was going to can. And so during that, I was like, this is a good opportunity. Everyone's sort of like in this hibernation mode. I think I'm going to pursue this finally. And that was really it. And it started coming together really quickly.
Where's the name come from?
So Necromancers Resurrect Dead Things. And the story of this actually is, I was like, I don't want to just start a brewery, because even back then, you know, this is like, what was this, 2019, 2020?
2019.
Even back then, it was extremely competitive. And so you couldn't just like open a brewery and be like, we make beer. Thumbs up. You had to have a vision. And I didn't want to just, you know, being a branding guy, I wanted to have a specific direction for where this brewery was going to be. And I didn't care what that direction was unless I was like super encouraged and feeling on fire about it. So could have been a all hazy IPA brewery. It could have been a lager brewery. It could have been a Belgian brewery. But I was studying for the certified Cicerone, you know, process, as I'll call it, which is the equivalent of a wine sommelier. And there was this category of historical beers. And I'm reading through these beers I'd never seen in the wild, never even heard of, that are vastly extinct. And I was like, you know what would be fucking cool? What if there was a brewery that specialized in resurrecting dead beers? And one thing led to another. I'm like, what resurrects dead things? Necromancer. Is the copyright available? It is. And so forth and so on. And before you know it, Necromancer was born. And it was really cool because when I interviewed Lauren's like, yeah, that's what I dream of doing is, not just doing one thing. And we do a lot of things.
Yeah.
But Lauren does a lot of research and dives into the nuances of these things you never heard of. Like, I guarantee you, no one out there who hasn't been to Necromancer knows what a Lichtenheiner is, or a Merceburger, or, some of these really bizarre things that we bring back and make taste good. And so we were off and running, and it was a long and arduous journey, as many young breweries go through, of finding a space and getting equipment and building it out.
Don't just skip past through this. We got to talk about this. So whenever you met Lauren,
I'm a skipper.
I'm a rewinder. At what point did you guys meet? How far ahead before you opening this brewery did you two meet?
It was almost a solid year.
Almost a solid.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, so it was like a year of like a thinking piece for you before you opened this.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Lauren was actually on payroll for 1 year before the brewery even had opened. So I was talking to Lauren. I was paying Lauren like hourly and whatever. And then Lauren's like, hey, it's going to get really busy at Penn. Like, I just want to let you know. I was like, how about I just hire you full time?
Yeah.
And so Lauren was literally working in the Top Hat office for 1 whole year, doing nothing but planning a brewery.
Wow.
So Lauren's actually been on the team for 3 years.
Yeah.
We've been open for, just almost 2. So that's really how it began. So
wow.
Just diving in.
Now talk to me about, your mindset as far as leaving Penn, because I'm, like I said, I'm a novice at all this. I don't know the reputation that Penn has. I don't know if people considered it in high regard or what, but I know that it's a big name. Now for you to leave that place for, something that isn't even real yet, what's your mindset in that moment?
Oh, I was stoked.
You were just ready to go?
I was ready to go. I mean, I was assistant head brewer.
Yeah.
And I had this opportunity to just be able to do
creative freedom.
Creative freedom to do all the stuff that I wanted to do and start a brewery that sounded really kick ass. Like when Ben told me the whole kind of idea and everything, and I was like, this sounds awesome.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to be just brewing the same 5 brands over and over.
That's all that they had was like 5 different beers.
I mean,
well, I know that they probably have different ones, but it wasn't like a big variety.
No, I was brewing the same stuff all the time.
Because whenever I walked through the spot yesterday, I asked him if all those cans on the top were all different ones. And did you figure out that number? You didn't even look.
It was over. It's 140.
140 different beers already?
I'll confirm that right now.
That's insane. Yeah. Now, obviously, like your mindset of being like wanting to be more creative, like it's an obvious that you would want to go and have free reign rather than just do the same shit over and over again. Now, I mean, your process as far as like building out a brewery, Ben, at any point in this time, like did you like what is your extent of brewing? Like, do you know anything about it, or are you like, just kind of helping with the ideas and like helping putting stuff together?
Sorry, 118 as of right now.
118, so that's good.
That's not bad.
Yeah, it's still good. There was a shitload of cans up there.
Yeah. Yeah, so I think the clear distinction I always make to people is that I'm really good at drinking a beer and telling you if it's good and why and what basically what made it good, what ingredients I think are in it, what the process was, but I will never put myself in the position of suggesting that I can do what Lauren can do and what our brew team can do.
Okay.
So I've done some home brew batches, but I mean, could I put together a recipe? Could I get up on the brew deck? Could I do all those steps? Absolutely not.
Well, the reason that I ask that is like, as you're building this brewery, it's like, how do you decide what you want to do with it? Like, how do you decide, how many barrel system you want, what direction you want to go? Is this something that like you felt, whenever I say, Lauren, is this something that you felt comfortable, like, trying to design and like, trying to figure out, did you have the same, like, idea of what you wanted?
I think for the most part we did. I mean, Ben and I have like really open communication, and there was when we were first brewing or deciding, like there was just a dialogue of like, all right, well, what do we want? Like, do you want to go really big to start off, or do we want to start small and then grow into it? And I think we both kind of agreed starting a little bit smaller just to kind of get in there and not blowing it all at once.
Yeah.
was the best idea. And then as far as like, Ben's awesome because as far as like how the brewery was designed, like the brew house, that he just was like, do it. And I got to do it, which was totally kick ass. Like,
Yeah.
For a brewer that had never built a brewery, it was a little intimidating and it was a lot of research, but it's awesome now because it's like, I was able to build something that for the most part, given what we were able to do, everything's where I want it. We have all the stuff that I want. It's like,
You created it.
yeah, it's mine.
Yeah.
For all intents and purposes, you know, because like having worked at other breweries, there's things that you're like, oh, if I could change anything, I'd change this, or I could do, and all that came into play. So I was able to
Kind of create the environment you're going to spend your time in.
yeah.
That's awesome. Now, what is the system that you guys have there?
So we have a 3.5 barrel alpha system right now.
Now, what is now? Break that down as far as like, you know.
You get 7 kegs a batch.
7
if it's a
kegs.
If it's a single batch. If it's a double batch, you get like 15-ish, or sorry, 7 barrels, and then it's 15-ish kegs.
Yeah. Now, he said that yesterday that you guys are just like ripping, you know, a crazy amount through this system that you have.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I have the numbers there. I did the research.
Now, talk to me about this as someone who doesn't understand this shit as quite in depth as you guys do.
Yeah, I'll put it this way because every region's different and specific. So you look at like something that's very developed, like a Seattle, the numbers are completely different. Or, you know, I would even say a Boston. For us in Pittsburgh, so Pittsburgh Brewing is obviously the number one by barrelage. So to put this in perspective, Pittsburgh Brewing in 2022 did somewhere between 80 and 100,000 barrels of beer. So whenever you think of that, you know, 100,000 barrels of beer is a metric fuck ton.
You said that Pittsburgh was number one?
Pittsburgh Brewing Company. So Iron City Icy Light.
Yeah. Oh, wow. That's crazy.
So that was the number one.
Yeah.
Stoney's 7,000 barrels. So that's number 2. The third was Helltown. I forget what theirs was. It was like maybe like 5,000. And then it was Penn, 4,100. Dancing Gnome was 3,200. Trace, 800. We weren't on the Business Times list because nobody reached out, but we would have been number 15 on that list at 636. So Full Pint did 700. We did more than Church Brew Works, if that means anything to anyone out there, in 2022.
Now, how do you do that with the system that you have? Is it just, you know, you're ripping at all hours? You know, is that basically what it is?
Turn and burn. We're maxing it out as fast as we can. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Raw effort.
Raw.
Lauren says, every day I say, good morning, Lauren. Lauren says, Ben, I'm tired.
What is so what's like an everyday for a brewer? Like, what is your schedule? Like, when are you in there? When are you out of there?
So I usually get into work between 6:30 and 7, and then
In the morning.
yeah.
Okay.
And then I usually don't leave, depending on the day. Some days I'll leave if I'm like able to get out. I'll get out at like 3:30, and then like some days I'm not out of there until like 6.
Yeah.
And that's doing brewery stuff. That's not doing like if we have events or something, and I work
Yeah.
events or something.
Now, what's the planning for a brewery? Like for you guys to open and, you know, kind of do this the correct way. I know that you said that you opened just for pickup, right? That's what you did at first.
Yep.
You know, what's your mindset as far as what you need to make, what you need to have ready for this opening?
Yeah. It's a bit of an experiment, you know, where we opened in the middle of the pandemic. We couldn't serve draft, so we did cans only. And
Well, let me put a pin in this, and I'm sorry
Yeah.
about this.
Oh, no
because
problem.
even before you opened the spot, you did a couple brews, collaboration brews with
Yeah,
like Dancing
right.
Gnome and
Yeah.
stuff. You know, how do you decide that? Do you choose to do like a collaboration to kind of like, you know, incubate your name a little
Yeah.
bit and try to just get it out there?
exactly.
Yeah.
That was Lauren's idea. Lauren's like, we should like start making beer at other people's places, you know. And
Why wouldn't you?
Exactly.
Why wouldn't you?
Yeah, especially, I mean, you're working with Dancing Gnome. They're one of the big names. It's like
Yeah.
great people. I'm sure that you guys are all like, you know, trying to lift each other up. And I saw that and I was like, that's such a cool idea. And I saw that after there was a couple pictures that said like, we're going to be on Babcock Boulevard. So I
Yeah.
was like, oh, they brewed this before they were even, you know,
Yeah.
in this place. And I thought that was such like a cool idea of it.
Yeah, I thought it was a great idea too. It wasn't mine, but I thought
that's
it was
good.
awesome. But, in terms of picking beers, I think we're in a rhythm and a formula right now. And it is like it was back then where we knew we had to make a hazy. That if you're a brewery, you have to make a hazy because even your people who come in for the weird shiny toy that you just created, they want a hazy after that or before that.
Is that the most popular?
Oh yeah, by far. Absolutely. And so for us, it's, what classic are we going to make? What resurrection are we going to make? What, depending on season, people want a big, thick stout. We're going to do that. But ours is more revolving around, all right, so we're going to have a strategy that has enough hazy that we never run out because it's the first thing to go. It sells the fastest. Somebody came in yesterday. They were like, hey, do you have any cans of any hazies? I'm like, no, they're gone in like 2 days still. So people still love that. Second, honestly, the second most popular for us right now is the lager. And so
It's the year of the lager, right?
It apparently.
See that? I'm not even a beer drinker. I know
the year that you probably saw that from breweries in PA.
No, I talked to a couple other brewers.
It's the year of the lager. Somebody said that somewhere along the line, but I was in there yesterday because I was training someone who was new and I was there and we had a huge event weekend and I'm looking at the cooler. I'm like, do we have any more dead presidents? Amber lager. I go to the back. I'm like, holy fuck. There's like literally a case left and it came out on Tuesday of last week.
Well, that's great.
Or Wednesday of last week even. So lager and hazies and then like can of worms. We did a lot of it, but it's blasting. It's an ESB. I wouldn't call it a resurrection. I'd call it a classic. But the resurrections, some of them like Lichtenheiner, which is a smoked fruited sour, that's going to be gone this week.
I heard you talking about that yesterday.
Just a weird ass beer. Merceburger, super popular. People get it on draft more than they take it home, but people blast through that on draft. So
now let me ask you this: for you to be, this business owner, and for you to be the head brewer, and you're trying to figure out like this, you're starting in this world of saturation because Pittsburgh has almost 50 microbreweries, or
probably more than that. I don't know the actual number.
Probably more than that now, whatever. But you're starting as another brewery in this world that is already kind of like been established.
Yeah.
Is that intimidating for you too?
I don't really think about the competition. And that's sort of been my thing where like when I started Top Hat, literally agencies are probably like marketing, design, communications, web, SEO, like those kind of agencies are extremely, extremely common where you go to any business person and say, I'm going to start. It's like saying, I'm going to start a pizza shop. Like, that's a bad business plan.
Yeah.
And they teach you that in business school. Starting an agency, don't do that. There's too many. There's too many good ones where like, they're like, there's the Bruners and the Smith brothers and all these people out there. Like you're never going to make it. I just didn't give a fuck. I did it anyway. Same with breweries now. And even whenever we started and was like, this like the bubble's gonna burst, the bubble's gonna burst, the bubble's gonna burst. Everybody made it through the pandemic and it's more competitive than it ever was. I don't really think about the competition. I'm just like, for us, it's like, this is the beer we make. This is who we are. Come enjoy it. Like we're not really thinking about anything else. And so that's my style of running businesses is we're going to have a vision and, impose it and show it and just be secure in it and not really pay attention. And so I was just like, I just want to fucking like, it's not a great story to tell. It's like, I just wanted to fucking do it. So I did.
Well, I like that. It's cool to hear that it's just like an idea that you just, hit the ground running and you do.
I was just like, let's do it. And we're gonna do this too. Bring that over here.
Put it in there. What's this one? This is can of worms.
This is your fave, can of worms.
That one was good. I didn't know I didn't know what I was gonna like yesterday because I was like, it's a different color. So like I said, I'm a novice at it.
It's pretty though. It's a pretty.
It is. It's good. It's good, and it does taste good. I would definitely tell you if I didn't like it. I think I definitely poured out. I've definitely told people I don't want this saison that just opened.
I'm glad we didn't bring any saisons.
Yeah, see, this is good. It has like a sweeter taste to it. And you said this is called a what bitter?
Extra special bitter.
Extra special bitter.
Jinx, you owe me a soda.
Where's this from? Where does this hail from?
Britain.
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 Is this like do a lot of people make like a extra special bitter?
It's fairly common in Britain. And then there, like, I mean, when I was at Sun King,
But I mean, like around here, like is that?
not as much anymore.
Yeah.
Back in
Maybe-
the day, when I was at Sun
Yeah.
King, we had an ESB as a house beer.
Wow.
When I worked at Sun King until they took it off, and I was real bummed about that. It was called Bitter Druid. It was a really good beer.
Yeah, this one tastes good. I do like this.
Yeah, I haven't really noticed.
I haven't noticed a ton of ESBs.
Now, how did you like, you know, kind of launch this business besides for doing these collab brews, you know, and like kind of gain this following, you know, what was your mindset? Obviously you're a marketing guy. Are you like a control freak?
I would say no.
No?
I would say there's certain things I want to control and there's certain things I don't want to control. So like,
I like that.
you know,
I like that. You seem very transparent. I like that about you.
you could see right through me.
Yeah, I like that about you. I like that you could tell that you probably got some crazy tendencies.
Oh,
but
yeah.
I like what you just said, that there's some things I want to control and some things that I don't.
Lauren knows me so well.
I'm sure you both, you know, definitely get to see everything of each other.
I would say like, I trust people to do things that they do well.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
That's a great quote. Pull that out. So like for Lauren, I was like, literally, I don't know shit about starting a brewery. Like I've consulted on, I know how to drink it. I know what makes a good beer good and why, like, you know, down to the Cicerone level, which for some people that's like, ew, Cicerone, you know, but it's a good designation that shows that, you know, your shit.
Yeah.
But I can't brew it. I don't know how to plan it. So I was just like, hey, Lauren, I'll pay you do it.
Well, that's why I asked you, like, you know, and whenever I said, you know, being intimidated opening a brewery, it wasn't about like, you know, you being intimidated, like, should I not do this? It's more like, you know, how did you really, you know, kind of, you seem like a smart business guy. That's what I'm saying. How did you ensure that this thing wasn't going to like, that you were going to do it right? You know what I mean? Because I'm sure that anyone could just go, you know, start some shit. But for you to do it to where you do it interesting, to have people, because that's what you're saying, you're selling out all this stuff. You know, how do you grow this brand and, you know, this following as quick as you do?
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's like to some degree you can do everything right, and sometimes you don't succeed. You know, I've had failed projects before that are brands that I tried to start that didn't work.
Yeah.
And we were lucky, but we also worked really fucking hard. And Lauren works really fucking hard, and the team works really fucking hard to put out the best possible product and experience. So, you know, our success was we had the best damn branding that we could have. We had an idea that was specific.
Yeah.
That I think inspired other people in town to maybe try some stuff that was a little different, which is always cool to see.
Yeah.
You know, where we see some of the beers that we made that no one has ever made. And I mean, on the fucking East Coast that people are now making in Pittsburgh, like rot beer.
Rot beer.
Rot beer. It means red beer and lager. It's like a red lager that Lauren found and then somebody else made it. You know, I think it was just like, you just kind of go for it. You do your best. And if you have the right talent,
things will fall into place.
Yeah. And that's kind of how I roll.
Now, as far as your end of brewing, you know, these things like these rot beers, you know, I assume that you've never brewed these things before. You know, what's your experience just like kind of, you know, saying fuck it and just trying it out? Like, are you messing anything up?
I try not to.
Obviously you try not to, but I mean, like are these are old, you know, I'm sure that, I know that the one that you did with Odd Pittsburgh was like a weird ass beer that he found like some recipe was at it, and you kind of adapted this recipe. Mm-hmm. You know, like how are you ensuring that what you're doing is going to be, you know, worth the investment of all the product that you're using, of all the supplies rather?
We don't know, right?
Well, I mean, no, not really. I don't like talking about myself in this sense, but I think using the experience that I have, understanding ingredients and understanding like what I know to brew,
yeah,
and applying that to something new. Like I know this set of stuff will taste good,
yeah,
and based on this historical thing, this is what it should taste like. So like making those two, and then a lot of it's just kind of like, okay, is this gonna work? And keeping your fingers crossed. And so far, I'd say 90% have worked. I mean, there's never been a beer that we've dumped because it wasn't up to like a
Standard.
recipe standard spec.
Yeah.
I think it's just using the intuition that you have from all the times brewing and all the recipes you've brewed in the past, just to kind of like, for some of this stuff, like an ESB, I've had a shit ton of ESBs. I know what an ESB is supposed to taste like.
Yeah.
There are style guidelines of how to make it. For some of the stuff, like the Merceburger, like that is all we got was it's a really bitter black beer that's supposed to be like an aperitif that had orange in it, and it was 100 and how many IBUs?
Over 120.
Yeah, over 120 IBUs.
Which is bitter as fuck.
It's just bitter as fuck. And taking that and be like, okay, how are we going to make this into a beer that honors all that stuff, but also that people are going to buy because this is a business. Like, so it's kind of just doing that a little bit.
Yeah, what to finesse, what parts of it to finesse, what to make it more approachable.
Yeah.
That's
I will say on the Lichtenheiner front, I was totally anti. I brought the idea to them and as like a ha, this would be funny to make.
And what is it?
So Lichtenheiner is a smoked sour.
Okay.
And I was like, okay, no one's going to like this because you lose half your audience with like sours and you lose half your audience with smoked beer.
I fucking
and I was
hate a sour.
Exactly.
I hate it.
And like,
Should have brought one.
And I was like, how are we going to sell this shit? And I was like, the only thing I can think of to make this even sellable is like to toss fruit in it and like make it a fruited sour, make a smoked fruited sour, maybe. And now people love it. And I'm like,
I heard the people there yesterday that were just random. They were like, this is great.
Yeah.
I heard it with my own ears. Now, what is the smoked part of it? Like, are you smoking these? Oh, okay.
The malt that we use is actually smoked, which then when you brew with it gives the smokiness.
Wow.
Yeah.
When you're opening this place, like, did you guys have any problem with like getting like supplies to do all this?
Yeah.
The cans were a little bit sketchy for a bit.
Yeah,
but
they
other
were.
than that,
Wow.
the grain and everything, that was fine.
Yeah.
There was no short supply of that, huh?
Nope.
Just cans.
Now, Necromancer does a good job at being inclusive. I see there's flags all over. I see that you guys got great merch. And I want to know, like, I know that you are Pittsburgh Brewery Diversity Council. I have terrible handwriting. But now talk to me about that as far as like, being a woman brewer. I saw that I saw on a post that said you were second woman head brewer in the city, but you said it was hearsay. No one knows.
Who was do we know who
Meg,
the first?
Meg was the first,
Okay,
yeah.
gotcha. I couldn't remember who it was. I knew it wasn't the first, but
Yeah.
was the second for sure.
Yeah, second for sure.
Now, what's like the industry like as far as like a woman being a head brewer? Like, I know that it's probably.
Well, let's add another layer to that.
Yeah, I'm
a
also
queer
queer.
woman brewer.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which it adds another level up from my just seeing it from the outside.
I mean, in the job that I have now, the one thing that stood out in Ben and I's interview is he said, I want this to be the most diverse workplace. He was like, I want women brewers, I want queer brewers, I want people of color. And I was like, immediately, I was like, yeah, sweet. Fuck yeah.
Yeah.
It's had its ups and its downs. I'll put it that way. I think one of the things I love about Necromancer is like diversity and being inclusive is something that's really important to me. And
Yeah.
Ben has also been on board with that, and like we have just kind of taken that and run with it as fast as we can, and I love it. Like all of our hiring practices, all the events we do, the space we've created. And for somebody, I'd say a year ago, going to Ben and not like knowing he was cool and an ally and like gung ho, but being like, well, I want to put on a pride event. I want us to have this in the tap room. I want us to do this. Why don't we do that? And him just being like, yeah, let's do it. Was awesome and not something that I thought would happen. I go to like every podcast and like if you had talked to me until up to about 2 years ago, I'd been like, no, everybody's super supportive. It's fucking great. And everybody's really nice. And then finally I was like, yeah, no, I'm not going to lie anymore. It's not always nice. Like there are people that are awesome and there's people that have been great supporters and have been great friends and have like welcomed me and people like me with open arms. And there's people that haven't.
Yeah.
And I think that's with every industry everywhere. And I hate having to say that, but I just think we have a lot of ways to go. Like we have a long way to go. And I feel like we're making strides, and I'm happy to work in a place that is kind of
open to doing that.
Open to doing that and trying to really like push it.
Yeah.
And there's other breweries that are also trying to do that, which is really awesome. Like if you would have told me that there would have been 3 or 4 breweries in Pittsburgh like 5 years ago that had queer people working for them, had people of color working for them, had women head brewers, women brewers, I would have been like, good one. But the fact that it is, and that's where the things are going is awesome. But we do have a ways to go. I think, it's just kind of the nature of the world right now. But, I think the industry is getting better. At least I hope it is. And I think we're making great strides. And it's nice to be at one of the breweries that is really trying to change that.
Yeah, to change it and push for it.
Yeah.
Now, what's you're on this council, talk to me about that. Like, who put this council into place and how long has it been in place? The
Diversity Council, Adam from 412 put it in place, and it's been in place for about 2 years. And it's had its ups and downs. We've been really active. It's just having turnover and people moving, and I know Adam moved recently. And it was just created to try and promote diversity in taprooms, promote diversity in hiring practices.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, for you to, kind of be a safe space for this, like, how do you, what's the right way to say it? It's like, how do you champion that? As far as what you're doing, like, what can you, how do I even want to say it? I mean, I feel like, you're doing it. You have people of all different types working in there, but it's like, what else can you do to like champion this? And this is me speaking from a straight white male that doesn't really know any of all this. So it's like, obviously this council is something that I've never heard of before. So a lot of these like problems that you are mentioning are things that like I'm just ignorant to these things. And I'm sure a lot of the people that are listening are ignorant to it and that don't really realize that, a woman head brewer was something that was rare, but let alone a queer woman head brewer. And it's just, I do see you guys doing this where you're being a champion for this. I see Trace doing it, and it's great to see it because it's more like it's more relevant in today's world. But what could other is there anything else besides for like this council in the city that like kind of is a proponent for this?
I mean, we have the subcommittee for the Brewers Guild. So we're working on getting a code of conduct for the Brewers Guild, which is going to be awesome. Just to so that everybody feels safe in places, which is also going to involve lots of training, getting everybody on staff in all breweries to be trained to create safe spaces. And I think for other people, it's just, I don't know that we do a ton differently at Necro. I think it's, it's just something that's at the forefront of how we think about the business and how we think about presenting ourselves. So it's always there, but having events that are geared towards people that are not just, straight white guys want to drink beer.
Yeah.
So like
straight bearded white guys like you want.
No offense, but like having a drag show or having we have queer beer club that we have because I had seen this done in other cities. Like I always wanted to have a place that I could go to or like hang out with the people that are like me and enjoy beer because I fucking love beer.
Yeah.
But I'm also queer and like hanging out with just a bunch of straight people is not always something that I want to do while I'm drinking beer. So, I actually brought it to Ben. I was like, we should have a queer beer club. They have one in Boston. They have one out west. And it would be like a get-together where people who are queer can come and enjoy beer, feel safe, like doing stuff like that. Just, making it...
In good company.
Good company, just like trying to say, no, like, we accept you. We want you to feel safe. We want you to come and hang out. Like, if you like beer, come and hang out. I think that is the biggest thing that people can do. And, we have had so many customers come up and be like, oh, thank you so much. Like, I didn't know I could go anywhere, and now I can go to this brewery. And it's just being like, oh, that's awesome. Yes, please bring your friends. We're happy. We're welcome to have you. Like, we want everybody to feel safe and enjoy beer, because otherwise, like, what the fuck are we doing?
Yeah.
And I think that's just how we roll. I think that's just what people can do. A lot of people don't know that they can go to a place.
Yeah.
So, like, if they don't know that they can go, they don't know that it's safe, they won't go. So just kind of being like, no, like, we're safe and we like having you all around and come drink beer and hang out. And
Yeah, being the people that are, posting about it and being like vocal about it and not being, just okay with it but not saying it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Trying to set yourself apart from that.
Yeah. We also donate a lot.
Yeah.
To different different communities. We've donated in the past and had fundraisers, and I think that also kind of hits it out of the park, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hits it home, because
Yeah.
they see that if they see that that's where you're putting your money as a business, they know that they're going to feel safe there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where like you do it as a business, and it's like some people see it as a risk or like there's a cost benefit analysis to it, and it's like we have fucking progress flags in the North Hills, and people who just got off a shift repairing cars in a mechanic shop walk in, don't give a fuck.
Yeah,
they just want to have a beer. And so some people are like, oh man, I'm afraid to put up a flag or to do an event or whatever.
You hear a lot of people, you've heard that? From
other people who are like, oh man, I would never do that. Like that freaks me out.
Is it that big of I would never ask you to name names, but I mean, like, is that?
I have a list actually in my pocket. No, I'm kidding.
Carry a list in your pocket. These are the people you should never fuck with. But is that like, do you think that being a queer person in today's world is like, do you feel that things are starting to progress as far as like being more, it's just so wild to hear that like a business would be like, oh, I guess I can understand what you're saying for sure. It's like, don't talk about religion, don't talk about politics. It's that whole thing. It's like, rather not talk about it than ruffle people's feathers. But in the end, it's like that leaves kind of like no progress at all. But nowadays, it's all right for things to be discussed. Like that's the world we're in. There needs to be discussions. And it's interesting to hear that you say that, though, because I guess, I'm just a straight white male. So it's like these are things that not always at the forefront of my mind, but definitely should be. But that's interesting you said that as far as like businesses.
Yeah. And you and I had this conversation at Necromancer yesterday. It's like people are like, do you really need to do that? Do you need to do it to that level? And I'm like, well, yeah.
Yeah.
Because I'll have a meeting. It's Lauren and I. The people come in, and they only want to talk to me.
Yeah.
Oh, because a woman can't brew this beer, especially a queer woman.
Yeah.
So
where you don't know shit really.
Yeah, they're like, people will come in. Lauren greets them. They're super disrespectful. Like, I'm not talking like we're not being sensitive here. We're being like blatantly disrespectful. Like, where's Ben?
Yeah.
Where's Ben? We're here to meet Ben. It's like, this is the fucking brewmaster. This is the person you want to talk to. I don't know shit. Okay.
Yeah.
Lauren tells me. I say that's a good idea or a bad idea. So, people come in, they disrespect Lauren. That's a red flag, but it happens. And we have somebody in the tap room who's non-binary, and people disrespect them all the time.
Yeah.
And so it's like, people are like, why are you going so hard in the paint? I'm like, because we fucking need to, because this shit happens every day. Even at our place, people come in, they see all the flags.
You still have that experiences of like, people being like that, even with all the.
Yeah.
Wow.
It just happened like this past week. It was not like a black and white, or it was a black and white. It wasn't a gray area situation. It was like, wow, that was super inappropriate. So now I have to go talk to a regular at the tap room and say, hey, what you said was like really not great.
Yeah.
And try to like educate them about like,
yeah.
You might have thought it was funny, or you might have thought it was like, you come here all the time and that was an okay comment. It happens even with people who know what we're about. And, we're not in the business of just being like, get the fuck out, unless you do something really bad.
But more just like trying to educate. And
just being like, that wasn't cool.
Yeah.
And so, and here's why. And so even with, and we're very out there as we are, it still happens weekly, and so that's why we every time something happens, it's like, all right, well, we need to keep doing this.
Just got to double down on it.
Just got to double down. That's why, like, again, people are like, do you really need to have a drag show every month, or do you really need to like have a queer beer club? And I'm like, and again, I'm also a straight white guy. I'm like, fuck yeah, we do.
Yeah.
Because I hear about shit every week that's happening in the tap room that people should know. That's not okay. They just don't know. So we're trying to make it where everybody can exist in the same place, but also be respectful.
Yeah.
And so the work needs to still be done. And that's why we do it. Because it really does still need to be done.
I will say, though, I am also constantly surprised by some of the people that come in the tap room who, in my mind, don't look like they would be chill.
Yeah.
And we'll have a drag show, and they'll come up and be like, oh, hey, when's the drag show start? And I'm like,
You?
what? Like, oh,
Yeah.
you're going to the drag show? And they're like, yeah. And I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, in like 10 minutes.
Getting pumped about it.
Yeah, they're excited.
Come on, it's back here.
There's so many like blue collar dudes that'd be like, when's the drag show starting? And I'm like, are you sure you're in the right place?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was. I'll never forget this story, which I tell all the time. I try not to bartend anymore. I only do it when I need to.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to do that right now. But, so I'm bartending during a drag night, and it was like one of our like first ones, and it was insane. It might have been during Pride. It was during Pride. This dude's sitting there, and I'm like, he just got done with work. He has like oil. He's like all over his hands. He has this dark oil. I'm like, hey man, what's up? He's like, I just got off work. I'm like, where do you work? He mentions this mechanic shop.
Yeah.
I'm like, this is a mechanic. He's going to hate this, And he's drinking, we used to have Old German and Icy Light. He just keeps ordering Old German, $2 Old Germans. Boom, 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 boom. I'm like, this guy's going to hate this. He says, when's the drag show start and how do I get ones? And I'm like, whoa.
That's the best.
This is incredible. This is awesome. So it's like, we have a lot of people who are either like, they just don't have an opinion on it. They come for the good beer.
Yeah.
We have people who have an opinion on it. We have people who come in who are surprised when they shouldn't be. So you get all types for sure. But like Lauren's saying, sometimes you're really surprised. You're like, oh, you just, cause you really never know.
Yeah.
And so it's always.
Well, you guys definitely got a cool environment there. The shop is cool. Do you call it a shop?
I haven't yet, but I like that.
Yeah.
The shop, I like that.
I use that as an umbrella term for everyone. A shop, whether it's a restaurant.
The shop's cool, Lauren. I like the shop.
Shop is cool. I like that back there. You got Terminator 2 in there. Mortal Kombat. It's just like it seems like a fun place. I love the skeletons. I love all the decoration. It's definitely awesome. Now, as far as being established, you're an established brewery now, obviously.
Oh, nice. When that happened?
I don't know.
You're obviously,
job, Lauren.
You guys got a nice spot, and then you're ripping these beers. What's the ideas of like what you want to do, upcoming? Obviously you're established now and you're, getting your feet under you, but it's like, what are your goals? Do you just want to keep diving through different beers?
Yeah, I definitely want to do that. I know we want to get bigger. I don't know if we want to spill the beans yet.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is gonna be a brainstorm session here. I think we kind of know.
But continue to grow. I mean, the build. You saw the building. It's
Yeah.
giant.
Yeah. Did you? And I'll even cut this out. But do you want to talk about
don't cut it. Don't cut it.
Well, do you want to talk about the rest of the ideas of what you have as far as building out the kitchen?
Sure.
And all
Yeah,
that?
I'll do it.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm cool with anything.
Well,
Transparent.
then I'm not going to cut it out. So
Don't
talk
cut it,
about
man.
it.
Yeah, I mean, so just having that background of dealing with breweries, the number one thing that I notice is that a brewery starts in a spot, the spot's too small, they have to move.
Yeah.
I've seen breweries do this 3-4 times. It costs a lot of money. There's downtime and it's really stupid.
How did you pick Babcock Boulevard?
It's a great question. Part of it was I wanted to do something in the North Hills because there was a power vacuum there that needed to be filled.
What do you mean by that? There wasn't that.
There
many
was no
breweries there?
brewery, no craft brewery that in the proper, I'll call it the proper North Hills.
Wow.
So, I mean, like a production brewery that's brewing on site. Like you saw, like Cinderlands opened a taproom satellite in Wexford, but they don't brew on site.
Yeah.
So I don't really classify that as like in that race of like the race to the first brewery in the North Hills. Even Full Pint doesn't brew on site in Wexford. They brew probably at the original facility. I don't know that for a fact, but we were like the first production brewery in the North Hills that brewed on site. It's like, I just wanted to do that because I grew up in the North Hills. I wanted to do that. There wasn't something there And so we started down this journey of we wanted something that was a minimum of like 6,000 to 10,000 square feet, because we knew going into it, we're like, all right, we're going to start small, but we're hoping. And again, I don't really plan that far in advance. I'm very just like, I'm going to give this a go and see what happens.
Yeah, I love it.
It's like, I would love to get bigger, but I don't really know if it's going to work.
Yeah.
So we might as well start small and scale our way up.
So you bought the biggest place you could find.
Pretty much. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we picked a building,
How big is that building?
14,400 square feet.
Big as fuck.
Big as fuck. Yeah, it's so big that we're currently going through permitting battles to figure out the rest. So we're going to just,
I was so blown away by, whenever you took me in the back where everything is brewed, and then I saw the back door where it just opens up even more. I was like, Jesus, it's definitely overwhelming, but, there's a lot of potential there.
It's a labyrinth. It's huge.
It's a labyrinth.
But yeah, it was just kind of like Babcock Boulevard. And we looked at a lot of proper North Hills places that I'll name.
Yeah. Any other places where Necromancer could have been?
Yeah. The old Wildwood Highlands.
Wildwood Highlands.
It was this really notable little spot that had like a giant jungle gym on the inside and arcade games and a go-kart place.
I know exactly where you're talking about.
Where that giant blimp is now.
I know exactly where you're talking about.
Yeah, that's a funny story that I am going to talk about because I don't give a fuck anymore. And the statute of limitations are up. So we're looking at these giant ass spaces, and that's like, oh, that's awesome, right? We looked at the old Schwebel's bread factory.
Yeah.
Same story every time. The landlord has infinite money. Okay, you could do whatever you want.
Yeah.
I'm like, all right. So at Wildwood Highlands, this guy went on and on and on and on about how much money the landlord had. I'm like, okay, great. I said, the ceiling's too small. Can you raise it by 6 feet? Oh no, that costs too much money. We can't do that. I'm like, okay, great. Schwebel's Bread Factory. The landlord has so much money. We have people on the team who used to work at Pittsburgh Brewing Company. We know this business. All right. Can you spend $100,000 and build out the brewery? Nope, can't do that.
Yeah.
We can't do that. So we looked at the old Schwebel's Bread Factory. We looked at Wildwood Highlands. We looked at another place which won't be named because they were actually good people and they had floor load issues that they didn't know about because they'd never.
What does that mean?
You can't put heavy equipment on it. It was like a suspension floor.
Yeah.
So there's something below it. And so what else we look at? We looked at fucking everything.
There's a place on Perry Highway.
There was another place on Perry Highway where the scumbag landlord, we found black mold in this place. And we're like, yo, can you fix this? They're like, no, fuck you.
Yeah.
We're not going to fucking
Gnarly
fix
as
it.
hell.
I'm like, okay, we're moving on. So, and then we, my dad knows Chris who owns our building. My dad's known Chris for 50 years.
What was that building you said?
A USA Baby.
And you said that was like just a big ass baby store?
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
That's before the internet was popular, apparently.
So before you guys moved into there, was it empty?
It was empty. There was no baby stuff in there.
But it was a seasonal Spirit Halloween, which is the ultimate indicator of where a brewery may go.
Wow.
Yeah, it was a Spirit Halloween. The first Halloween we had, we didn't do anything. It was on a Sunday.
Yeah.
We were just open.
In 2021, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we were just open. And this past Halloween, we went all out.
Don't tell me people rolled up and was like, isn't this Spirit?
I actually put out I was the person bartending that day. Woman comes in, she's like really confused, still has her sunglasses on, walking around. She's like, yo, is this a Spirit Halloween? I'm like, no. And I gave everyone in the building a shot of, I think it was Boyd and Blair vodka. I was like, everybody gets a shot of Boyd and Blair because somebody asked. And I said, anybody else who comes in asking if this is Spirit Halloween, we're going to take a shot. And, we don't really get that anymore because we have a sign finally after almost 2 years in business. But it was a USA Baby, and then it was a Spirit Halloween, and now it's a brewery. So that's kind of how breweries get formed. Look for where the Spirit Halloween is.
What a wild business model, Spirit Halloween. It's like Dollar Generals.
It's
like
crazy.
they just pop up everywhere. Shit. Yeah, except for Halloween. Monthly stores. Okay, so, like we said, you're established now. What's the goals of the business?
So we had some time to think about this. I'll go first, and you tell me if you disagree.
I like it.
Okay. We started distroing into, it's really funny. Like we have more success, and this is a weird thing to say, but we have more success distributing into markets like Philadelphia, Washington, DC, and Virginia.
Oh, so you do that.
We do. And so we've been doing that. We're going to keep doing that.
What's your mindset behind that? Because I know that there's local places around here. Like I know that like Trace, for instance, they don't do distro anymore.
Right.
So why, what's your thought process behind doing that?
Yeah, I see it from a different philosophy, I guess, than people locally. I mean, to be quite frank, like it's kind of a shit show to try to distribute in Pittsburgh from my experience. And I don't mean that to be anything except like, it's all like independent and it's all this and it's all that. And you got to talk to this person and you don't get the time of day.
Yeah.
And it's really, certain accounts are like gatekeepers and they won't let you in.
Yeah. Because you're the new guy.
Because and we have a great track record with the accounts that we do have who are very nice and people reach out all the time and they're great. But sometimes when we have like, oh, I'd love to be at this place. Crickets. We'll reach out again. Crickets. We'll see them at an event. Oh yeah, that would be great. Crickets. And then you get a market like DC and Virginia or Philly who want us big time. I mean, I would say this past year and tail end of last year, our distro was 90% DC and Philly because those people are like, Necromancer is so awesome. We went to Queer Beer in DC. We went to breweries in PA. Pittsburgh invades Philly.
Yeah.
And people were like, holy fucking shit. Necromancer is doing the beers that we want. And so they come to us and they buy more than anyone in Pittsburgh has ever bought from us because they are so excited about what we're doing. And it's not good or bad. It's just the way it is. But I think just as a general business move, Bell's makes money because they distro to probably all 50 states, if not, beyond into other countries and what have you. So I think if you're trying to scale and we're getting a bigger system, we're going to be, every time we need to expand, we're going to do it. So we're expanding. We're going to double 0.5 our barrelage in the next year.
2 months?
In the next 2 months into the next, we're going to be scaling
Let me
up a lot.
Let me ask you this in general, and as far as the craft scene in general, is it usually places are kind of, keep to their own? Like, obviously you mentioned Philly, you mentioned DC, those are big places, a lot of transplants there. Places like Pittsburgh, smaller cities, small, big cities, so to speak, like, is it normal for people to like kind of just keep their product within the city limits? Mm-hmm. That's a normal thing.
Yeah.
But what is the reason behind that? Is that more just we want to keep what we have here because we have people that buy it here, or is it because they don't want to deal with the hassle of dealing with distro to other places?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think if you look at the distro numbers analytically, I mean, Pittsburgh is a beer producing area. It might seem big and saturated, but it's really not in terms of barrelage. So those numbers we were talking about earlier, I go to a market like Seattle and the brewery on the corner that everyone makes fun of is doing 10,000 barrels.
Yeah.
That's way more than Penn. That's way more than Helltown.
Well, isn't it a bigger place out there?
Yes and no. Like certain neighborhoods have those breweries and they do well and they're well removed. It's just a more mature scene. It's older. West Coast is a very old beer scene.
Yeah.
And so I think when you think of that regard, people have a certain amount of barrelage that they're trying to put out there.
Yeah.
And they're able to do it. And that's fantastic. For us, my mindset as a brewery owner is, I would love to see how far we can go.
As far as growth wise, like become a big name.
I'll grow as far as we need to. Every time we need to grow, we're going to grow.
Yeah.
And so part of that is we have a bigger system coming. I don't think that the Pittsburgh market could do it without being saturated. So we decided, here's a strategic business move. And we've already done it, so you can steal this if you're listening. Philly's a big market. There's a lot of room to grow there. DC, Virginia, big markets. We have pull for other markets as well that won't be named. That's great. It gets our name out there because we're not a local product. We are a local product, but we're a brand with a bigger appeal.
Yeah.
Doing things that
That
people
makes
are
sense.
interested in. So for me, I was always like, and my original business plan was really, really aggressive, but really bad because you lose the effect that you build up. My original business plan is like, fuck, I'm going to get a 30 barrel system and 60 barrel tanks, and I'm going to go huge. But thinking about it the other way, it's that we need time, we need to build demand, we need to build reputation. And so starting
just build a
small
brand.
is good. Just build the brand, build build demand as well.
Yeah.
And so, but I've always been thinking, because I have all this exposure with these other brands that are doing other things. And I was like, at some point we need to just grow until we can't grow anymore. And what that threshold is consumers telling us when they don't want anymore. And we have not hit that yet, especially with these other markets. So we're building relationships with places because we love Pittsburgh. I live here, obviously, and I think it's a great city. But we want to think in terms of, we want to do Pittsburgh proud too, and we want to be a brand that's recognized.
Yeah,
and so
puts it
we're
on the
building
map.
relationships with Philadelphia is one of the most sophisticated beer markets in the United States.
That's interesting.
Period.
I love Philly.
Philly,
Love it.
Fishtown is a great place to hang out. I try to do as much as possible, but
Love Philly.
it's a sophisticated beer market that you drop a black IPA at a beer fest and you have 50 people.
What's a black IPA?
Lauren, what's a black IPA?
I saw someone on your posts say that every time I order a black IPA, I'm always disappointed, but I got your black IPA and it was fucking great.
Hey.
And I think it was,
Ayo.
what makes it a black IPA?
It's the grain bill. So it has dark malts in there. It's like a West Coast IPA. I have had once I did have a New England, just a sip.
Okay. Is this a sip?
Yeah, that's good. That's good.
Is that good?
It's
Is that good?
bitter as hell, man.
Which one is that one?
It's bitter as death in the gallows.
You want your little.
Oh man, this is gonna. Although maybe the hops have fallen off on that one a little.
This
bit.
is like a super black.
Just
IPA,
a little
right?
pull.
It's like a super black IPA.
Just
So
a
like,
little pull.
Tell me
I like
when.
a stout.
Tell me when.
Well, if you like a stout, it's like a
that's
hoppy
weighing
stout.
out. That's way enough.
Oh my gosh.
What about now?
It's all right. Don't take it as disrespect if I can't finish it.
So a black IPA, it's gonna have the dark malts in there and the caramel malts to make it dark, and then it's hopped like a West Coast.
It smells like, I expected it to be way more pungent smelling.
No, it's still really.
Wait till you have it.
It's still real bitter, man.
So this is bitter as death in the gallows. This is our interpretation.
Once that thing finishes and the sweetness goes away, it
Yeah.
just dries your tongue out.
Yeah.
Really?
A black IPA is kind of like this a little bit.
It's like this, but
this
not
is like
as
a double
high
black.
octane.
This is like a double black IPA to me.
Like what if a beer drinker, level 1 beer drinker is like a hazy IPA, and like level 5, like what is this? Like a mid range? Like is this like a complex type of beer?
I don't know. I some people like, some people just end up. They wake up one day and they're like, I like porters.
What's your least popular beer that you guys make?
Grodzitsky.
What's
You
that?
think it is?
Yep.
It's a smoked wheat beer.
Smoked wheat.
Yeah, somebody put on Untappd that it literally made them vomit, and I laughed. I was like, it didn't make you vomit. You just didn't like it. You didn't have to put
You
down.
had too much to drink, sir.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Don't blame me.
What's your best seller?
Our best seller is going to be one of the hazies. I think the best hazy that we have made is Not My Tempo.
Not my
so
tempo.
far.
It's sort of a toss up in some regards because we've had our house hazy against
It just dries your tongue.
black IPA. We've had our house hazy up against West Coast IPA. And there have been some instances where black IPA or West Coast IPA has outsold hazy IPA for us. But general trends, still hazies are going to be your best sellers. And for us, double hazies, Lauren has honed in the hazy, sorcery, as it were. And so our hazies, like I'm truly, like, I can say it from the bottom of my heart. I truly love them. They're great. They're great beers. So those are always going to be your number one sellers because that's just where the market is right now. Right now, number 2 spot, it always surprises you. So we're like, all right, we're doing a stout, we're doing a hazy, we're doing a lager, we're doing this, we're doing that. And so like right now, our best sellers are hazy, followed by amber lager. And
Speaking of amber lager,
you want an amber lager? Okay.
please.
Dead presidents.
Dead presidents.
I can tell you.
That's
right
the last
now,
case right there. That's the last one.
It might
Not
be.
quite, but very close. There
Very
was like
close.
literally 7 4-packs left.
There you go.
So, and I broke one up for you.
I love
And
that.
I'm getting the rest.
Our
at home.
second most popular beer, as far as Untapped, is a foreign extra stout.
Our number
Foreign.
one is a double hazy.
It's a double hazy.
What's the double hazy called?
Not My Tempo.
Not my tempo. What's the? Didn't you do another one that's called like Give Me Another or Give
Yeah.
Me a Second?
Give me
me
a
a second.
second. We did that
Give me a
one, and
second.
then we've also done one that's called the Dex.
Well, what establishes what beers you keep on the list rather than the ones that you just you brew and then you're done with them?
I think it depends. It's a mixture of things of like A, public, how much they buy it and
Yeah.
the perception, and B, how much I think the team
Likes it.
likes it. Because we've brewed beers again, and they've been like mediocre. I wouldn't say mediocre sellers, but they've been average
Yeah.
sellers, and like the team likes it so much that we're like, oh, we got to do it again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have
I
you
would
brewed any that were kind of like not really receptive or not really?
Krzyzewski we brewed twice, and that the first time we put it out.
Yeah, and you have to like.
Well, it's interesting because you guys are remaking this, like,
Yeah.
all these different things. And
All the
like,
champagne.
Yeah, you're trying to figure it out along with it. And that's cool that you're doing it. And I feel like that that your following kind of understands that, you're doing a little bit of something different here.
Yeah.
But that being said, maybe some people don't like all these beers.
It's true. Yeah. And I would say that we've been fortunate enough that we haven't had anything that we had to be like, all right, this product needs destroyed
Yeah.
because it's out of date code.
Yeah.
And I think as we think of scaling up, we're going to be extremely strategic of what we put in the biggest tank that we can possibly fit something into.
Yeah.
It's going to be one of those products that, again, we're going to sell some here and we're going to sell some there and we're going to sell some everywhere. It's going to be a product that the distros literally told me, we want your London Brown big time. We want that on, as many cases as you can get us, as many sixtels, as many, what have you.
Yeah.
Why? But why though?
Oh, I don't know how the market works. It's a,
Is that not a good beer? London Brown?
It's not.
Lauren doesn't like brown ales.
I see it. You poured the rest of that in there.
I'm not a big brown ale fan, and like
I love brown ale.
people
It's great.
loved it, and I was like, man,
That was a resurrection. Yeah, it was. And literally DC called and they're like, hey, can we get some London Brown? I'm like, nope, it's gone. They're like, all right, next time around, we're going to buy, insert number here that's surprising.
That's
like,
good.
oh, cool. And
Yeah.
Philly is like, do you have any black IPA? Do you have any West Coast? Do you have any,
So they're embracing all the weird shit the Inns are doing.
Yeah, usually the trend works that it's popular in Philly, then it's popular in Pittsburgh. When it's popular in Pittsburgh, it's no longer popular in Philly.
Yeah.
And there's these like little grooves that you can get in of products that just like
Wow.
circumvent that. So it's kind of like West Coast, East Coast for fashion. For beer and PA, it's like east to west.
Yeah.
And it's really interesting.
That's a good way to describe it.
Yeah, it's because Philly is very mature. I mean, I said this, I was probably on record somewhere saying 10 years ago that Philly is a saison city. And, at the time I'm not really into saisons right now because my palate has flipped. But back then it's like, damn, they have all these saisons and people doing it. And
Yeah.
I mean, Philly has Monk's Cafe, which is like a premier craft beer bar that literally anybody who knows beer will know how ridiculous this is. I go there because on the Top Hat side, we had a client that we just booked out there. So we're in Philly and we had to go to Monk's Cafe. They had Hetty Topper, Pliny the Elder, and then 10 beers I've never heard of in my life from France on tap.
Would you consider
On tap.
yourself someone who knows a good bit about beers?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I didn't know what the fuck they were.
Well, that's good. I mean,
And that's Philly. And
Yeah.
they were, when you put it on tap, you're like, all right, if this doesn't go well, 60 days from now, I'm going to dump this shit,
that's how long you got on tap?
Yeah, 60, 90, right?
I usually give it 4 months and a keg before it's tapped.
Yeah.
On tap, yeah, I wouldn't.
If it's already tapped, it's like,
You gotta send it.
even 30 days, it's like,
gotta
I
send
don't know
it.
about that.
Yeah.
So they're going in. They're going in for the kill,
Jeez. So you guys are just ready to, just keep ripping, scaling up whenever you can, and just keep putting out good stuff.
Will grow, as much as the market demands.
Like a goldfish. As big as
Like
the
a
tank
goldfish.
is, you're going to grow.
That's right.
like that.
I like that. Yeah, I mean,
If you make a t-shirt with a goldfish on it, just,
We can have a goldfish on a t-shirt.
you should.
we're gonna actually get one of those little.
Let me draw
foam.
it. Let me draw it. Let me create this.
You draw this?
Yeah.
We're gonna do a mini goldfish, and the more liquid you put in the jar, the bigger it gets.
Love it.
It's a little, one of those. What do they call
Them
those?
grower things that you
Yeah.
had when you were a kid
Oh, yeah.
would be like an inch big and then it
Yeah.
would grow like 2 foot.
Except it's gonna be how much liquid determines, and it's exponential. So we already have plans. I mean, we sort of speculate at all times. Like
Yeah.
we didn't expect to be where we are right now.
Yeah.
With growth, and I mean the fact that on a 3.5, if Lauren had we're upgrading to a 7 barrel. If Lauren had that, we would have done, I mean, double, triple.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe not triple, but double 0.5, like 1,200, 1,400. We would have been.
It's
like in
doing
the
work.
Top
It's
10.
doing work.
Lauren's ripping it. So, and propagating yeast and figuring shit out and dealing with me, and it's great.
How
So-
do you, as a brewer, further your education? Do you have are you someone that like is like, oh, I'd like to take a course or things like that?
Yeah, I've actually gotten 2 certifications in brewing, and then I'm also part of Master Brewers Association. And there's always stuff to learn there. That's where I got one of the certifications I got was through Master Brewers, and then they have so many like courses you can take. They have an online technical quarterly that you can read. Just reading stuff as much as I can get.
Wow.
Like when we were starting to propagate yeast on our own, I was just researching all the time. Yeah, I like researching. It's fun.
What do you do for fun besides researching and beer? You still play instruments?
I do. I play bass in a band called Les Paul, coming out with our album, hopefully.
Love that. That's a good name.
And yeah, it's 3 lesbians and a
What
guy
kind of
named
music?
Paul. It's like indie pop.
All right.
I do that. I have a 21-month-old at home, so there's not a ton of hobbies.
Oh,
Like the
yeah, I
bike
bet.
ride.
Bike rides?
Yeah.
Can't beat it.
Like the bike ride.
That's good. Do you now what whenever you were in the symphony, what instrument were you playing?
So when I was in the symphony here, I didn't play an instrument. I actually managed the pops programs,
What is that?
like the popular programming. Like
Oh.
whenever they have like Chicago plays with the symphony,
Oh my
Pat
goodness.
Benatar or Smokey Robinson, all that stuff.
Oh wow.
I got to meet all those people, and they're great.
I bet.
His eyes are that green.
Smokey's
Really?
kicking
His
around down here.
eyes are that green. He got out of the limo
Yeah.
in the dock, and I went to shake his hand, and he goes, "Oh no, we don't shake hands, we hug." And I was like, "Okay, bro." And so I hugged him, and I like looked at him in the eye, and I was like, "Dude, your eyes are like fucking jade." I didn't say it,
Yeah.
but I was like thinking it. I was like, "Oh my god, your eyes are so green."
That's cool though.
It was a cool gig.
Yeah.
It was a cool gig.
So you got some hobbies to keep you know,
Yeah.
to separate the beer,
Yeah.
Play some music. What about you?
I don't have any.
I know you're a business dude. I don't imagine you doing a bunch of other things besides
I mean,
for thinking of.
I like to exercise. That's it.
That's it. What did you do like in high school? Did you play sports or anything?
I wrestled.
Did you?
Yeah.
What weight?
I was.
Did you start?
God, it was so long ago. I was 130.
Were you good or did you get dropped on your head?
I was goodish.
You
I
got
mean,
dropped on your head. I got dropped on my head too. That's
No,
fine.
I was there. So I went to North Allegheny, which is a wrestling school.
Oh, I know.
So there was 2 teams, gold and black.
Yeah.
Gold was the best. Black was like a different whatever. It was funny because like
Were you on both? Kinda.
yeah, I was
filled
like,
in on gold whenever you needed to.
Filled in on gold, but I
yeah.
was a starter on black. I went to like tournaments and stuff and
That's what's
placed
up.
3rd and whatever. But there were dudes who like I wrestled with that won states.
Oh yeah.
So
Tale
we
as
had
old as time.
we had a really, really great program. Good discipline.
What else did you do? How do you become this like entrepreneur? You told me your dad was an
yeah.
entrepreneur.
Yeah.
You told me that, but it's like, did you have any other idea of what you wanted to do in school?
It's a fun idea. So when I was in high school, I was like, I'm going to write books. I'm going to write fiction.
Jesus.
I'm going to write fiction. I know, it's funny.
What a random ass person.
I was just like, I don't know. I liked it. And so I went to school for writing, and I was like, this ain't going to work because I don't think this is going to work right now. So I transitioned into communications and marketing. I was like,
so
all right, I can
interesting.
write for that. And it turns out writing is like the most sought after skill and creative as it is.
Meanwhile,
So-
there's a diary somewhere.
Oh yeah.
Oh, there's
That we
many
have to
diaries.
find.
There's a hard drive somewhere
Where
of everything
there's
I've
a
written.
bunch of
Poems,
stories.
everything like
Yeah.
that.
Oh, I wrote, this is a fun fact that I don't think many people know. I wrote 20 full length novels,
Wait, what?
600 pages plus
Each.
each. Yeah.
I have to
By the
read
time I
these.
graduated.
What are they
high school.
about?
Just like, I mean, they were like urban fantasy, like really
If you don't
stupid
produce
shit.
one full novel, just one of them, and at least show it to her or something like that.
Yeah, I
and
have to
I'm,
read this
I'm gonna
shit.
have to I might call bullshit on it.
He's
20,
lying. Are they
600
romance
pages
novels?
each.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know how good, I haven't read them in a while.
That's all right. If I see pages though, I will believe.
I'll
you.
bring them in.
That's
I
crazy.
used to, at North Allegheny High School, I would print them because I wanted people to review them.
Yeah.
So I would print them secretly because you're not supposed to do that.
Yeah.
And the fucking librarian would be like, who the fuck printed all this paper? We're out of paper.
Oh yeah.
And I did that at least 10 times and they caught on to me. So I had to go
Very
to like
interesting.
But
I want to
so
read this.
yeah, so I just decided I'm like a fairly creative guy. Like, it'd be cool. I'm just like sort of like, I think the core of entrepreneurialism and being a creative is that you have multiple interests all the time.
Yeah.
So for me, it's like, okay, I started Top Hat. This is an agency that can work with different companies. I'm going to take that one step deeper. I'm going to start a brewery. I'm going to get into it.
Yeah.
And then it's like, all right, I'm going to acquire the barbershop that was my client and they're moving to Florida. It's just kind of like you have multiple interests.
Yeah.
And so for me, it was like being a good communicator through writing was always a good start, but it wasn't what I was meant to do. And you never really know that when you're in high school because you're like, angsty and weird and shit.
Absolutely.
But I was like, all right, I'm a good communicator. That's going to translate. I'm going to be able to put together messaging, make money on it. So branding, creative, etc. But also, I mean, that's business. You have to be able to communicate well.
Yeah.
Write up good proposals, write up good this and that. So I think writing and communicating is the number one skill that I have as a person.
That's
And
good.
so, but I still have a goal one day because my deal with myself was I was very far along as a high school student with, the way I thought about things. I was like, you know what? I'm going to shelf this desire to write a book about whatever, who cares, right? Whatever it is. I'm going to come back to that one day when I'm older, wiser, with more experience.
Write a book.
To tell better stories.
Yeah.
So I've shelved that idea. I'm doing this and I'm loving it, but I do have this deal where I'm going to go back and one day I'm going to produce something. It could be like, hey, here, and really stupid idea. Here's a book about how to start a business, man.
That's good.
Or whatever.
That's interesting to hear. Definitely, definitely a wild one. You're both pretty wild.
Oh,
Didn't
I'm
expect.
wild.
Didn't
I'm wild.
expect. Didn't expect the stories that I got from both of you today. We're not done yet, but we do have to get to the ending segment of the podcast. Do you think that there's anything that I did not cover as far as brewery talk?
I don't think so.
Okay.
What do you think?
Ending segment that I do with everyone.
Is this Desert Island?
Yeah, is an ending segment called Desert Island Questions.
All right. I'm not ready for this.
It's all right. No one is.
I thought I was going to be, and I forgot.
Everyone
Bathroom
forgets.
to rehearse, but I forgot.
Everyone forgets. Desert Island Questions, whenever I give each guest or guests 3 categories to take with them on a desert island and use until they starve to death and die. First category, 3 movies to take. So just to keep this orderly, take turns, name your 3, and then we'll switch over to you. You can name your 3. Who wants to go first? Okay.
Okay.
3 movies.
Terminator 2,
Perfect.
Boondock Saints.
That's a good one.
I'm going to have Fletch Lives.
Fletch Lives.
Yeah. Is
that Chevy Chase? Fletch?
Yeah.
Is
So
this the
Chevy-
second one?
Yeah.
Never seen it.
Dude, Fletch and Fletch Lives, probably Chevy Chase's best.
That's a good, it could be.
That was like,
He's really not been in a lot of things, if you
No.
think about it.
no, he was in that one with Dan Aykroyd where they were spies. I forget what it's called. He was in Caddyshack, which is a great movie.
Obviously, Vacations.
Fletch is like, I would call it like sort of like an indie film that
Yeah.
if you made it now, and it was that good.
I knew Fletcher's. I just didn't know what the second.
Yeah, there was
one
a second one.
Very
Yeah, there was a
weird.
second one.
Those are good. Those are good choices. Those were quick. Those were movies that you got a special tie to.
Yeah, I would say so. There's some ties.
You
Yeah.
didn't say Roadhouse.
Oh God damn it!
It's a good one.
For Roadhouse.
Can't wait for the remake.
No.
Can't wait.
I can wait.
Can't wait for it.
I'm gonna do a tie. That's how you game the system, as it were. So I'll say Fletch Lives tied Roadhouse.
Yeah, that's a good
Roadhouse is fucking awesome.
Yeah, that's a good movie.
Thank you, Lauren.
All right, Lauren.
Thank you, Lauren.
Man, I'm not great with movies. What's the movie, the real sappy one with Robin Williams?
Oh, there's so
Where he
many.
goes into
Patch
hell.
Adams.
Where he goes into hell.
Bicentennial Man.
No, y'all.
Hell?
It's a play on Dante's Inferno.
Oh, I don't.
Oh, What Dreams May Come.
That one.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Shit.
That's
Jesus.
a sappy one. I
That's
like
like the-
sappy movies.
That's the movie that you're going to watch the rest of your life and try to not jump off a cliff is
I
What
love
Dreams
that
May
movie.
Come.
I love that movie.
That's a good one, though.
It's great.
I don't think I've ever seen that before.
You haven't seen that movie?
I've never heard of it.
That's a good one.
Sappy Robin Williams. I'm thinking fucking Bicentennial Man.
That's a tragic movie.
It's rough.
That's a wild one. You ever see Patch Adams? Mm-hmm. Oh, that'll rip you up.
I know, man.
You ever see Patch Adams?
I've seen Patch Adams.
Acting.
Yeah.
Robin Williams.
Good
That's
actor.
R.I.P.
That's often my
Peace.
yeah. R.I.P.
Ninja Turtles.
Which one?
The first one,
Perfect.
obviously.
Yeah, fantastic.
That's
Can't
where
beat
he
it.
swears in that one. Raphael's like, shit.
It was dope.
It's great.
Yeah, you can't beat
Now I gotta
that.
think of a third movie. I don't watch a lot of movies. I watch a lot of shows, not a lot of movies.
You could pick a show if you want. What's your favorite show of all time?
My favorite show of all time?
That's kind of like cheating
Probably
because
like
there's many
Game of
episodes.
Thrones or something.
Game of Thrones.
It was really good until the last.
I know that's what everyone says. I watched The House of the Dragon. I never watched
I
Game
like
of
that
Thrones.
one.
I never watched Game of Thrones. I was one of them people that were like, it's already happening. I'm going to die on that hill. I'm never going to watch it. But House of the Dragon was dope.
I
It's real good.
never watched it either.
Who's watching Last of Us? That shit's great.
Yeah, that's so good.
I haven't watched the Sunday episode. Leave me alone until I get home so I can watch it.
It's a good one too. It's a good show. That's a good one. All right. Well, that's a good 3 answers then.
Okay, fair.
Okay. Second category is I usually ask people books, but I have, the obvious answers are the first, second, and third rendition of your novels that you wrote.
There you go. That's right, man.
But I
Some
do
good
want to
shit
know if you had to pick your 3 favorite beers that you've ever had, not yours.
Mm-hmm.
You cannot be affiliated with them. What are your 3 favorite beers you've ever had? Is that hard to do?
Oh, yeah. I need a catalog here. Let me think.
Just off the top.
I can go.
Go. You go first. I'll think.
Cantillon.
What is it?
Cantillon.
Come into the mic, please.
Cantillon.
Cantillon.
Yeah.
Come
What
into
is
the
it?
mic, please.
It's a mixed fermentation beer, and they make a couple different kinds, but just plain Jane Cantillon was great.
Okay.
For hazy IPAs, it would be Bissell Brothers Subsurface. Love that beer. And then Bierstadt Munich Dunkel.
And what's your favorite that you brew?
Fuck. That one's tough. I would probably say Schwarzbier.
Schwarzbier? What's the name of that one?
Nightlight.
Nightlight? All right. Who comes up with all your names?
That would be me and Aaron.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You guys fucking kill it at branding. I'm very impressed by it.
Thanks, man. Yeah, I would say a lot of them. So Aaron is the partner at Top Hat.
Yeah.
He has a stake in the brewery as well.
Yeah,
which is
you were
why it's so
telling me
good.
about that
Him and Ian. So Ian on the Top Hat team. Ian's worked for Top Hat for 5 years. He does all the illustrating. Those guys just kill it. Every once in a while, like I was like, I want to make a beer called the Necromancer. Get it? Like a neck
Yeah.
romancing?
Yeah,
You know?
necromancer.
They're like, that's stupid. I'm like, no, you're going to fucking make it.
Was a vampire?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're necking. It's great.
Needs to be a vampire.
Has to be. So every once in a while, I'll have a good idea, but those guys,
The most
They drive the
disappointed
ship.
I've been at this whole experience is whenever I asked him if he was like a horror movie fan, because that's where I thought all this came from. I thought that he was just like, love it. He's just like, nah, I don't really like it that much. But
yeah.
but I like the branding. It fits with it all. It's a cool
Yeah.
name for branding.
Yeah, it is. I mean, like, you know, it's funny because Aaron has stake in the company. He's the main man at Top Hat. So we're in this together. We're doing it, right? He's like, when I told him the idea, I was like, Necromancer. He's like, are you sure about that?
Was this always like the style? Like, was there any other type of like styles or colorways or anything?
No, we were just day one like this.
Cool.
Even with the Dancing Gnome collab.
Love it.
Know? Aaron's like, you sure want to call it Necromancer? That's like a bit of a mouthful. And I was like, yeah, man.
No, that's good.
And I hear all the time, Necromancer is a cool fucking name.
It's a cool name.
I'm like, hey, Aaron, it's a cool name, man.
It's a cool name. 3 favorite beers.
But real quick,
Yeah.
final story on
Tell
this
me.
front. So I contribute some things that tend to do some things. So I was like, the colorways need to be black, purple, and white.
Why purple?
Black, purple, and white.
Why purple?
I think purple is a sort of fantastical color that it's a great color, but I think it fits the theme. So whenever we put on and think through brands, we think about, well, so what's this brand going to be? What does it need to feel like? And purple and black emulated that like fantastical sort of like undeadness to it.
Yeah.
And also nobody in the market had that colorway, which everything we do with Necromancers feels so impossible. A name that's not trademarked, that never happens, and colorways that nobody uses for all their beers until
Amen.
now when people rip us off. But
No one else has got pink. No one else is called I'll Call You Right Back.
there you go. Same deal.
Ayo.
There you go.
3 beers. So I'm going to be real pretentious and I'm going to say 3 beers that I've had off the line at places.
What's that mean?
Just like at the brewery, pulled it right off the canning line.
Okay.
Which I've been fortunate enough to do.
Fair.
My 3 favorite not Necromancer beers would be Gumball Head. Or I'm sorry, 3 Floyds, Zombie Dust, which I pulled off the line. And 3 Floyds is like,
Where's that?
that's in Munster, Indiana.
Okay.
So Gumball Head was the beer that got Lauren really into craft. And
Yeah.
we had this like, oh yeah, we fucking love 3 Floyds. And then they became a Top Hat client, which was awesome. So we got to go up there.
That's
And
cool.
I got to pull a Zombie Dust, which is like one of the best selling craft beers in the United States.
And you brought me no zombie dust.
I brought you Gumball Head.
It's not zombie dust.
So I pulled one of those off the line. It was like the best fucking beer I've ever had. I was like, oh my God. The second one would be the first Iron City beer off the new Iron City beer canning line at the new facility. It's a crushable, awesome beer, and just the emotion of like, they have their own brewery again and it's awesome.
Yeah.
Everyone was like happy. It was like this big thing. It's like, fuck, we're drinking Iron City beer made independently again.
Yeah.
And then the third, and again, I don't really condone the journey that these guys had, but the original Boom Sauce off the canning line at Lord Hobo was one of the best beers I've ever had.
Boom Sauce.
Boom Sauce.
What is that?
It was like a double IPA.
Oh.
They were like in the haze era. All the beers they made were hazy. So Dave, he doesn't work for Trace, but Dave from Trace, one of the owners, he was like the number 3 at Lord Hobo and helped make that beer awesome. And he left, for many of the reasons that you would assume.
Yeah.
And he has Trace, and Trace makes great hazies now as well. But Dave and Joel, who they both have Trace, revolutionized what that product set looks like. And so when I was drinking that beer, I didn't know it was Dave and Joel's product. And that beer was so fucking good. Oh my God.
All right.
And I pulled like the 6 millionth off the canning line, which was even better.
Is that like, the beer, does it need like, coffee? I roasted coffee. You can't use the coffee that you roast right away. You need like a purging, period. Is beer the same way?
I think it depends on the beer.
Okay.
We've definitely noticed that some of the hazies, if we package them too quick, they get a little softer.
It's interesting.
Usually a week or 2 in.
Yeah, there's the term is green.
Yeah.
So hazies, because they're is it the dry hopping, right? Makes it green. It's like kind of fiery and bitter. You want to let it rest a little bit. Usually by the time it's done fermenting, you just crash it, carb it, can it.
Well, that's why I asked. You said you pulled it
Unless
off the line. I just didn't know if that was like,
So by that point, I mean, when you pull a beer off the line, it's like it's ready to package.
Yeah, I get what you're saying now. Now I get what you're saying. I thought you were just like, oh, I'm going to just pull the tap out and just
that's
pull
great
it right
too.
out of there.
I
Be
do that all the
scalding
time
hot.
at Necromancer.
We do that all the time.
Yeah.
We do that all the time into big mugs, you know?
Well, that's good then. Got to have some perks of the job.
Oh,
okay,
some
third
bennies.
category to keep this moving because this is going pretty long.
I like it.
Third category is 3 CDs to take. Difficult one. Very curious to hear yours, Ben. Can't even imagine what yours will be, Lauren. But I can't, I can't really
first.
read if
You want
you're
me to
like,
go first?
yeah.
I'm gonna
Phoebe Bridgers' Punisher.
Okay.
Oh, I got it.
What's the third?
Only because I'm listening to it a lot is the new Beach House album.
New Beach House album.
Yes.
Okay.
Once, Twice, a Melody, I think is what it's called.
All right, Ben.
Oh God. Very, very confusing. So Iron Maiden,
Okay.
seventh son of a seventh son.
Okay.
Iron Maiden, Power Slave.
Don't pick the same.
Dude, I'm gonna fucking do it.
I'll give
'Cause
you all of Iron Maiden's discography.
Okay.
Humor me
cool.
and pick a different artist at least.
Okay. 2 more. Let's see. God damn it. I'm like blanking. Oh, Boxer Rebellion.
Okay.
I can't remember what the album is, although I've listened
all right.
to it 2,000 times.
Give you the discography.
And I'm gonna pick one that's really unpopular. That people are gonna be like, yo, fuck you, dude.
ICP.
You're gonna do it.
You ready?
aren't You? You're
What?
gonna do it.
I'm gonna do
Don't
it.
do it.
Coldplay, Viva La Vida.
Oh,
Why do people hate Coldplay?
Yeah, I think so.
I thought you were going with Kid Rock.
Oh no. Kid Rock's a guilty pleasure. Every once in a while, you're just like,
We all have a guilty pleasure.
oh yeah, you're just kind of like, oh, this dude's such a scumbag. But
Yeah.
I'm gonna listen to this shit.
Like, I listen to Brand
Oh.
New, and I'm just like, should I be listening to Brand New as much? But whatever. But you can't beat it. That's a good.
Yeah.
That's good. Kid Rock's a good answer too, though. I mean, that's a guilty pleasure.
Dude, oh man, it's
whatever.
so guilty.
Picture
So
Sheryl
guilty.
Crow. Come on,
Don't get me started.
that's everyone's favorite karaoke.
Every
song.
time I'm in the brewery, which I try to not be the person who's opening and closing bar anymore because it's not sustainable. But anytime I'm there helping with an event, I'll be like in a spot like the back,
Yeah.
cleaning the back, and people walk in. They're like, "Are you listening to fucking Kid Rock again, Ben?"
That's all right.
I'm like, "Yeah, man."
I definitely expect you to say something more wild than that, than Coldplay. But those are good answers.
Viva La Vida is, you got to listen to that first song to last song all the way through. It's a complete album. It's really good. Then they got really poppy after that. It was really weird. So
Is
that was
Viva
like
La Vida the
cusp.
one that Yellow was on?
No, it
That
was
the
way
one
after.
before it. Wasn't it?
I'm not a big
Yellow
Cold-
was way before.
not a big Coldplay guy.
Apparently,
Yeah.
Ben really likes Coldplay.
That's
loves
the
it.
only album I like. I like no other songs by Coldplay.
It's all right. You love Coldplay. You're a big Coldplay fan. That's all right.
I do not love Coldplay.
You don't got to justify
Redacted.
yourself.
You said
Kid
that it
Rock,
was gonna-
goddammit.
You said it was going to be one of your ones for the rest of your life on a desert island.
Yeah, I would
Listen
fucking
to.
listen to that album like indefinitely.
All right,
For real,
that's good.
man.
That's good.
For real.
Okay, so third to last question is the death row meal.
All right.
So the death row meal, you get an appetizer, a main course, and a dessert.
Okay.
Who wants to go first?
So I'm vegetarian.
Okay.
But
How
I
long?
would, shit.
Long
20
time?
years.
15, 20 years?
15
something?
years. What was the cause of it? Or what was the
My,
reasoning behind it?
It's been longer than 15 years, actually. It's probably been 18 or 19. The reason for it is I was dating somebody who was a vegetarian, and I went to Boston to see my sister. And she found out, and she was like, I bet you can't do it for a month.
That's
And I
really all it
like,
was?
It's all it was. And I was like, okay, I can totally do this for a month. What will I have to give you if I can't? And at the time I used to smoke, and she was like, you would have to quit smoking. And I was like, oh, it's on.
Yeah.
And I did it, and I felt way healthier, and I just kept it. But that being said, appetizer.
Beef tartare. No.
Oh, I mean, no. Wait, we'll get to the main course. Appetizer. I don't know. It's an appetizer. Like, what are you supposed to eat for a fucking appetizer? Tomato bisque soup? I don't know. And then the main course would be smoked beef brisket and mashed potatoes.
That's good?
Yeah, and then the dessert would be chocolate chip cookies.
Perfect. This place right up the road here, best chocolate chip cookie I've ever had in my life.
Are you serious? What's it called?
It's called Angelina's. It's just
Are
like,
they open right now?
no, they're not. But they have like it's just a hole in the wall. Best ones I've ever had. And I'm a cookie fiend. But what about you?
Appetizer.
Yeah,
Pork belly steam buns.
Perfect.
Noodlehead.
They're up there. Not the
Dude.
best, but they're good.
Pork belly steam buns. Noodlehead. I would do it every time for an appetizer.
They're great.
Main, Au Cheval
What's
burger.
that?
Au Cheval is a burger joint in Chicago.
Okay.
I was like, one of our guys on the top hats, I was like, we were in Chicago doing some stuff. He's like, we got to go to Au Cheval. I'm like, all right. So we go there. We had to wait like 3 hours to get in. I'm like, this is going to fucking suck. This is going to be overrated.
Jesus.
Get in there. I tell you what, bacon is thick as my wrist on this fucking burger.
I don't know if
Best-
I would like that.
Dude, it was, you don't know
Crispy.
until you do.
Yeah,
Phenomenal.
I'd try it. I ain't scared.
And then I'm going to go real pedestrian with my dessert. I'm going to say Dairy Queen vanilla soft serve dipped in cherry.
That's an Old Faithful, but
Okay.
if you want to go,
I'm simple.
Yeah, that's fine.
I'm simple and, for dessert, I'm simple. For everything else, I'm very complicated. So.
Better than saying an Eaton Park cookie, at
Yeah.
least it's ice cream. But okay, second to last question. You're both getting ready to go on a road trip to wherever their games are going. Go into a gas station. You get one last snack. What is it? What's your choice for snack?
Pizza combos.
Combos. Yeah.
Everyone.
We didn't even rehearse that.
I think combos is like the most chosen choice on here.
It's the road snack of road snacks.
But it's
so
always this. It's always so surprising to me because it's like whenever I was younger, I used to be a fiend. Pizza combos all day. But
Yeah,
now
baby.
I don't know the last time I ever bought them. But so many people come in here and say combos. Always blows my mind.
Combos all the way.
I swear,
Oh,
I
yeah.
could have I almost want to say it as a joke anytime because I feel like people are going to say it. But
Yeah.
combos,
I'd say
ridiculous.
to eliminate the ironic
Yeah.
beef jerky.
That's good.
Second.
I think beef jerky combos, and I think some sort of candy bar is always like,
Oh, yeah.
chosen up there. I think last week's was a whatchamacallit. You ever have that? I've never had that yet.
I don't know.
It's like crispy rice beak.
Yeah, something.
Caramel.
They've been around forever, but
Yeah.
I need to get one of them. Okay, last question. If you could have a conversation with anyone alive or dead, who would it be and why?
Oh, that's tough.
Cannot be obviously I feel like it's assumed if you would choose a loved one, but if
Yeah.
it's someone you're not affiliated with,
Fuck.
it's a heavy question.
Alive or
Heavy as
dead?
fuck. Nietzsche.
It's a good answer.
Good.
It's a good answer. Could be real or fake. Could be anyone. I think the first person that anyone ever picked on here was Randy Marsh.
What?
People have picked Randy Marsh. People have picked Jesus, Stalin.
Yeah.
I've had some pretty progressive people wanted to talk to Donald Trump, give him a couple words.
Huh.
So
Oh, that'd be tight.
There's good answers.
Okay.
Always interesting answers.
You'd be entertained, that's for sure. I would go Genghis Khan.
That's a good
I
one.
want to know what that dude was thinking. He's like, I'm
what
gonna.
a wild conversation
And
it would be.
assuming that we had the same language
Yeah.
and we could talk,
That's all
we'd
assumed
have a
in
few
this.
beers and I'd be like, so dude, like most people are related to you right now. Well, how do you feel about that? I'd have a fucking podcast interview with Genghis Khan. Like, yo, dude, like, what were you thinking?
He'll
I just
sound
want to
like,
know.
He'll sound like John Wayne, like they did in the movie back in the day.
I just want to know what that dude was like. I'm going to go conquer shit.
Yeah.
Either him or like Alexander the Great. Like, what were you thinking when you're like, I'm going to go conquer the world?
Yeah.
Like, what was going through your head?
It's interesting to hear that, like how someone picked Stalin, and I was like, and then I was like, that would be an interesting conversation.
Yeah.
But those are good. Those are good choices.
Yeah.
Now,
Did you pick
someone?
one?
Nietzsche.
Oh yeah,
Oh.
you did. That's how quick you were.
We were both like, did you pick one?
All right.
Is it Nietzsche or Nietzsche?
I'm not even going to pretend to. I wouldn't
He's
even.
German. So
Yeah.
it would be not E.
Oh, it'd be
Right?
stimmt.
Whatever. I don't think there's any German people listening to this that are
Good.
going to be
I
sticklers.
probably butchered it.
But listen, I appreciate you both coming over, carving some time out of your day. I hope that I did a good job at interviewing you both about what you're doing over at Necromancer. This was. I don't always do two people, but I think this went well. I think I learned a good bit about, what you're trying to do, what you're doing, what you're going to progress and do at Necromancer. Take a second, tell everyone where they could follow all the accounts, where they could come and have the beer, and, the whole nine.
All right, Lauren, go ahead. Just kidding. I'll do it. You want to do it?
No, I'm good.
Okay. Necromancer Brewing on Instagram, Facebook, necromancer.beer on the interwebs. We're in the North Hills, 2257 Babcock Boulevard, Tuesday through Sunday. Come check us out. Distroed in Pittsburgh, Philly, DC, and Virginia.
That's it.
That's it.
How can people find out where, if they're in Philly or whatever, how can you find out where it's carried?
I don't actually know that question.
You don't have like a directory on your website?
No. Lauren's been telling me to do that though, so I'm going to hear about this on the car ride back.
There you go. There you go. Great minds. There you go.
That's right. Yeah, we're gonna get fancy. Eventually, we'll have like a beer finder, but we're just sort of getting our stripes, as it were. So we're working on it. Yeah,
that's good. I don't expect you to have it all done, but that's definitely something useful as an outsider's point
I like
of view.
that. I like that a lot, especially with our footprint. So
yeah, absolutely. Everyone else that's listening, appreciate it as usual. Each and every week, we're back with another great guest or guests talking about all the great things they do in the city. So thanks for listening. Call you right back.